You ready? Good evening. I would like to call the public hearing of the South Windsor Planning and Zoning Commission for Tuesday, November 25th to order. Please silence or power off your cell phones. Our first order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like the secretary to read the legal notice into the record, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To be published in, for this one?
Yes.
To be published in the Journal Enquirer, Thursday, November 13th, 2025, and Thursday, November 20th, 2025, South Windsor Planning and Zoning Commission. Notice is hereby given that there will be a public hearing on Tuesday, November 25, 2025, at 7 p.m. in the council chambers of the South Windsor Town Hall to consider the following. 1. Application 25-43P, Ashari Text Amendment, request for a modification to Table 4.1.1.8, permitted commercial and industrial uses, to allow for indoor recreational uses by site plan approval in the restricted commercial zone. Copies of the application are on file in the office of the town clerk and or planning department and online at https www.southwindsor-city.gov/planning-department/zoning-commission-applications. At this hearing, interested persons may be heard and written comments by the public will be received by mail or email. Persons who may require an accommodation can contact the staff at 860-644-2511, extension 2329. By Kevin Foley, Vice Chair, Planning and Zoning Commission.
Thank you. So before we open the public hearing, I do have a couple of announcements for the studio audience and the millions watching at home. We had an election earlier this month, and we have essentially a new commission, and I'd like to introduce the new commission members. We have Commissioner Welsh, Commissioner Abramson, who had been on the commission a number of years ago. To my right, we have Commissioner Lopez, who has served on the town council. I am new to this chair, so thank you all for that. Our procedure for the public hearing is as follows. On each application, we will hear first from the applicant, then we'll hear from town staff, then we'll hear from members of the public who wish to comment on the application, first in favor, then not in favor or neutral. After all public comments have been heard, we will hear from the commissioners. If you wish to provide testimony, please approach the podium to my right. Sign in and identify yourself. We ask you speak clearly so everyone can appreciate your comments. Our first application this evening is application 25-43P, Pachuri Text Amendment, request for modification to Table 4.1.1.A, permitted in commercial and industrial uses to allow for indoor recreational uses by site plan approval in the restricted commercial zone. Do we have someone to speak on that application? Thank you. Please, yep. And please start by identifying yourself and your address.
Hello everyone, my name is Raga Pachori, address 76 Deming Street, South Windsor. So we have submitted this application for text amendment. So we currently have this property at 76 Deming Street. It's zoned as RC. So it's restricted commercial. It does allow like fitness facilities, but we were planning to we had a business here in South Windsor. It's like an indoor bouncy house place. It was called as Jumping Joys. So we think that we can build a facility there. So that's why we are requesting this text to be amended, so that we can, in addition to the currently allowed fitness facilities, we can have the indoor recreational use. So as I already mentioned, like we already have the indoor, it's a similar use like a fitness facility. The indoor bouncy house place is not like, it's a small place for like kids especially. So we have recreational activities. They do like similar activities, like it's not like adults, for adults like a fitness, but like kids come and play, and they also do the other recreational activities. And then also we have like maybe birthday parties and some recreational stuff for the kids. So it aligns with the similar use as the fitness facility. In the town, based on the data that we see, I think there are not many lots which are RC zoned. So there is no, there might not be like widespread impact to the zoning itself. So that's why this might be a limited use. Also, there is a option by which we can approach like overlay. We can still get an approval by following the procedure for the overlay, which might allow the use of RC zone like recreational purpose. So we have been in the town almost 15 years, and we ran like Jumping Joys for 3 years in the town. We love to help children. Like my wife used to have this place on Commerce Way. So yeah, it will be a good use to the property that we have. It's a big lot. We have the house in the front, which is like almost 70 years old house. So we want to keep that house in the front. We are raising our family there. We have 2 kids, and we want to have the backside use. It's a the backside is like tucked in behind the plaza. So it's and there's, I think, currently a lot of water logging happens. So we can utilize that space for some good use purpose. So again, like the indoor bouncy house will be just like a family focused, low impact land use. We will support like kids activities in the town. Yeah, so that's what our application is.
That's it? That concludes it?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Any members of the public?
Staff comments first?
I'm sorry. Town staff?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this is a request for a modification to table 4.1.1.A, permitted commercial and industrial uses to allow for indoor recreational uses by site plan in the restricted commercial zone. This is an application for a text amendment. So it's amending the text. It's not specific to one site. Just want to make that very clear. Currently in our regulations, indoor recreational activities are permitted as of right in the general commercial zone and by special exception in the industrial zone. This text amendment would allow indoor recreation uses to be developed as of right through site plan approval in the restricted commercial zone. Any proposal will be required to comply with the design requirements of the RC zone and of Section 8.7 Architectural and Design Review. This would include requiring the building elevations be attractively designed and held to a standard of architectural excellence. The RC zone has very limited locations in town. The restricted commercial zone does still contain residential properties, but unless they are or will be associated with a permitted business, they are considered non-conforming. This proposed text could allow uses in the form of indoor sports, a gym with a vast array of activities, some type of fun zone establishment for kids and teenagers. It's important to note that the largest area of the RC zone contained within the intersections of Ellington Road, Buckland Road, Deming Street, and Clark Street also coincides with the Center Core Overlay Zone, which could be applied to for development on these properties. Our Center Core Overlay Zone does allow for indoor fitness and recreation as part of the permitted uses by site plan approval. So someone looking to develop a property in this area could already do so, provided they comply with the stricter requirements of the Center Core Overlay Zone and would not allow for any single-family housing. The town's plan of conservation and development highlights the support and encouragement of business development in town. Particularly, the implementation plan looks to explore and implement flexible zoning standards to support redevelopment throughout South Windsor as a whole. The Capital Region Council of Governments has reviewed this amendment and finds no apparent conflict with regional plans and policies or concerns with neighboring towns. A change to the text of this magnitude is not likely to have a large impact on the broader extents of South Windsor. However, residents in proximity to these zones may be impacted by such a change due to the increasing demand of indoor recreation in town. If the commission approves this application, the planning department would suggest the use be allowed by special exception in site plan, so that appropriate conditions could be placed on the approval if it is proposed in conjunction with an existing residential use. And there are no engineering comments.
That it? Yep. Now we're ready for the public. Anyone would like to speak for this application, please step forward, identify yourself. Seeing none, anyone would like to speak against or neutral on this application, please step forward. You can be seated. As we go through the process, if we have questions, we'll ask you to come back. Can you give us your name and address, sir?
Yes, absolutely. My name is Kevin Clark, and my address is 47 Deming Street here in South Windsor. Good evening, Chairperson and members of this Planning and Zoning Committee. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak tonight. As I said, my name is Kevin Clark. I live at 47 Deming Street, and I am actually here tonight representing the residents on what we call Lower Deming Street, from Clark Street up to Tamarack Avenue, if you will. So we consider that like Lower Deming Street. So I'm here representing those residents, and I'm presenting this petition, and I've got several copies of it, where just about every neighbor in the neighborhood has formally expressed opposition to the proposed zoning changes and special permit request for 76 Deming Street, where the indoor bounce house and recreation facility is being proposed. Let me start by clarifying something, and I want to be kept honest here, so if I'm misrepresenting anything, please keep me honest here. But the property at 76 Deming is already residential to RC, or zoned for RC, which is recreational and commercial. However, the current zoning laws, as we understand it, and it was, I think, read into the record by Mr. Russo there, does not currently allow for both residential and commercial businesses to be on the same parcel.
No, that's not correct.
That is not correct?
That is not correct.
So what is, because he just said something about the fact that you can't, unless the residence is being used specifically for part of that business.
No, unless somebody, well, there's actually two conditions that can apply under. It can either be someone associated with the business living in the house, either owning the business, a caretaker, or there is a request that an applicant can make to have it be a rental property as well. So there's two opportunities. A single-family house in a restricted commercial zone, as it is, can remain as a single-family house, enjoy it as a single-family house, but it is non-conforming to the zoning. A house with a business on it is a conforming use that can be proposed. So just to clarify that.
The separation exists for a good reason. The reason we want residential and commercial separated in this small part of our neighborhood. And that it protects the character and the integrity of our neighborhood by preventing the commingling of residential and commercial operations in one location. I understand what you're saying. Thank you for the
You're welcome. No
clarification.
problem.
I appreciate it. So I'm just going to read on here. Some of this may not be completely accurate based off of what I just heard, but we want our voices heard about this current proposed activity center. So there's changes being proposed would allow exactly that, mixing residential and commercial uses on one parcel. We respectfully ask that the commission not approve the change. Maintaining the current rule will preserve the integrity and appearance of our neighborhood. So what we're looking to do is to maintain the integrity and the appearance of our neighborhood as it sits today. We understand that it is zoned for certain commercial business uses. We do get that. But this type and scale of commercial recreation center like this, it's not in the keeping and the character of the infrastructure of our neighborhood. This facility would bring an entirely different level of activity into our neighborhood. Increased traffic, evening and weekend operations, and extended hours, all of which goes beyond what our neighborhood was designed to initially handle. One of our primary concerns is traffic congestion and safety. It's not a big road on Deming Street. We got residential homes with driveways along both sides. There's no sidewalks on that part of Deming Street as we sit here today. And a child's recreation center relies heavily on weekend and evening events when families are arriving for birthday parties, as this gentleman explained, and other parties and events. I'd like to ask the commission, has a traffic study been conducted to understand how the influx of vehicles would affect Deming Street, Clark Street, and the nearby intersections? Has a traffic study?
Something like that would be done at the time of an actual application for a project. So this is really just trying to put something into the regulations so an application could come
Right.
forward. So
I appreciate that.
And-
So
Thank you
that
for
would be
understanding
stage
that.
two.
We'd like to know if that's been done.
Mr.
That's not-
Clark, the way this part of the process occurs is we're here to take your testimony.
Yes.
This is not really a give and take, although I appreciate Michelle jumping in because I think we all have to understand and have clarity on the regulations and what they do and don't say.
No, I'm sure you do. I'm still learning here, right?
Yep.
Obviously. So thank you. Michelle, I think you were the one I spoke to earlier on the phone today.
Yes, it was,
Yes,
yeah.
you were. Okay.
Yep.
So from our daily experience as residents, the current traffic patterns already require caution, and adding continuous event-based traffic could easily overwhelm the street and endanger pedestrians. We already have a tremendous amount of increased traffic from Costco and Whole Foods going in back there. I've asked the police a number of times to conduct speed traps on the street because it's a raceway now. It takes me sometimes 2 to 3 minutes just to get out of my driveway. It's just, we don't need this additional traffic, and I'm sorry, we love our neighbors, but we just don't need the additional traffic that this type of facility would bring and congestion into our neighborhood. Noise and lighting are other serious concerns. With more cars coming and going into the night, headlights, parking lot lighting, and outdoor activity will create disruptions that wouldn't normally occur in a small commercial and adjacent homes. Over time, this kind of use changes not only the immediate environment, but also the tone and livability of the entire neighborhood. We respect the fact that the town tries to encourage business. I heard Mr. Russo talking about the reason we have residential commercial zones is to encourage more businesses. but the residents need some sort of community as well. We need some sort of residential community as well. And if we allow these types of things, if we change whatever laws it is or whatever it needs to be changed to allow this facility to be built, then I could be looking at a shopping center across the street from my house someday, or I could be looking at a car dealership or a package store. We have a beautiful neighborhood, and we love our neighborhood, and we just want it to stay. We're down below Tamarack, and we want to maintain that sense of community that we have down there. Believe it or not, with everything around us, you can't hear anything. It's great. We still have some quiet. But something like this is just gonna drive more and more activity into the area. So lastly, we're deeply concerned about what the change could mean for the future character of the neighborhood. Allowing this would set a precedent that encourages more intensive development in this section of town. So I don't know if anybody has any questions for me, but I wanna thank you all for your time this evening. We understand what this type of facility could do for children, but there's a lot of other commercial areas around this town where this facility could be built and housed well and allow for the type of traffic that's gonna be required in order for it to come in and out. So, and I encourage all of you, as you evaluate this, take a drive down Deming Street and look at this area. It's adjacent to wetlands. I don't know how that affects it. I'm sure that's all been considered when the original zoning for the area was approved, but there's wetlands that run right through that property, so building on those wetlands and adding pavement and stuff, is that gonna affect the drainage and overall in the area as well? Those are concerns that we have as well. So I thank you all very much for your time.
Thank you, Kevin. Anyone else from the public wishes to speak against or neutral? Seeing and hearing none, do we have any letters?
Our office has not received it. You're gonna hand something in to us. or-
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, the permits. Yeah. Thank you for reminding me.
Petition.
Do you want, I have 5 copies. You want them all or just one? Just the original?
The original is fine, and if you wanna hand a couple to the commissioners. So
Yeah.
we did not receive any correspondence.
Anybody else wants a copy? I brought like 5 copies. I'm sorry, I didn't know how many people were gonna be here tonight. There you go, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate you. Thank you.
So now we'll hear from commissioners, starting with Commissioner Kupchonis.
So this is in, I guess, the zone. It's tough to say in a, commercial and all this zone to what you can and can't do on something to it, but I don't think, I don't know, I'm gonna listen to what other commissioners have to say on this.
Yeah, my turn.
Commissioner Dexter.
Could you explain how far up Deming beyond 76, the restricted
The
commercial?
restricted commercial zone is on the total north side of Deming from Buckland. So that whole everything on the north side of Deming,
So
Yes.
Windsor
on the
Federal.
east side of Clark, the south side of Ellington, and the west side of Buckland. That
Okay.
pink area on your zoning map
Okay,
is all restricted commercial, across the street as well.
okay,
That is also the same area with the town center overlay core zone lays on top of that.
okay.
How that works is that a property owner can take advantage of the restricted commercial zoning rules that are in place, the use table, all the bulk requirements, everything, and propose something under that. Or they can propose something under the overlay zone, which again has its own set of different rules. One of the reasons this gentleman is in front of you is the restricted commercial zone currently does not support indoor recreation.
Right.
Your overlay zone, if you look at the uses under the overlay zone, they're much more design-driven.
Okay.
They're more, something like this could be proposed under the overlay zone. The problem they run into is you can't have single-family housing. The only kind of housing in the overlay zone is multifamily housing, and it's based on proportions and things like that. The site doesn't lend itself to that. So really, the only approach to try to do this use under these circumstances is a text amendment.
So I want to ask another question, and I kind of, bring this out to the whole group here. Does the restricted zone, commercial zone, allow for alcoholic liquor stores?
Yes, I mean, you have them in 2
So,
of them already.
all of these properties?
Everything along Deming Street could in theory come in with a site plan for a commercial use, yes.
Liquor stores?
Anything
there's-
that's in your restricted commercial use table is fair game to be proposed.
Daycares, grooming.
I mean, you had a daycare there,
Yep.
right? You have offices there now.
Fitness facilities, which is somewhat, I guess I want to say it's residential, non-conforming, but there's a lot of other uses. Anybody could come in
You're correct.
already, not without even a text amendment, could just come in tomorrow with a site plan, special exception or not.
Correct.
All right, so I guess maybe the residents have been a little lucky so far. That,
What? I'm
that-
sorry, can I
that-
speak up
uh,
at this point in the meeting?
No, when I'm done. So I just want to make that kind of clear, and I'll defer to Commissioner Lopez.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I have a question. How often in South Windsor is this happening, where there is a residential inside a restricted commercial zone?
Inside of, we don't have a lot of residential, or I'm sorry, commercial properties like there, although there are some along Sullivan Ave. We see it a lot more in the industrial area where houses exist in the industrial zone. Just for context, this commission fairly recently changed the regulation related to residential uses in our restricted commercial, our general commercial and industrial zone. The way it was written before, you could propose a commercial use and say, I'm gonna put an apartment in it, and it met the requirements. The regulation now says that residential use has to exist already if you're gonna propose residential and commercial. So we're not perpetuating that, just putting in finding that illegal apartment and codifying it by saying, you know what I mean? We're putting regulations in place. And there certainly are mixed use regulations in there that could apply here. We have a regulation that's never been used, but would allow for you to put in a townhouse with commercial and residential together. We had an application years ago approved, it was never built, but you have a variety of ways of development potential that gets you mixed uses with residential and commercial currently in your regulations, and currently that apply to this particular.
Thank you. I have two more questions.
Go
One
ahead.
of them is, an amendment that makes a blanket proposition all throughout. Was there any analysis or thought given to just doing something for specific
You
to the
can't.
application?
That's not how zoning works. Zoning applies uniformly across the zone, right? It can't be site-specific. You go to a zoning board of appeals for site-specific, and those are usually rare instances where you're looking for some unique treatment of a piece of property. So zoning, if it's good in this zone, in this location, it should be good in that zone in the other location. So that's, some of what you need to think about when you're allowing certain uses.
And that leads me to my next question is, if the business is no longer there 2 years from now, for example, what happens to the next applicant? Do they just put whatever
So again, they would
want?
have to come in with a conforming use. In other words, they could convert it to another use that conforms, if a business goes out. Just to give you an example, when we put indoor recreation into our industrial zone,
Yeah.
we did it at a time when a lot of vacant industrial buildings existed, and we said, this is open space, it allows for big uses of baseball or whatever you want to do, and we make you come in with a plan of how you're going to convert it back into industrial use. So it was, I don't want to say it was temporary because it wasn't, but we did do that. We did get things like nomads and places that are permanent, have been here a very long time. But you also got some that came in and then went out of business and they've gone back into industrial use. So, you got to imagine that this is going to be a structure of a certain size, right, to be able to have the kind of use there. If you were to allow it through, maybe you want some special conditions similar to having the industrial zone that it can be retrofitted into other uses easily or something like that. I mean, obviously, everything's got to be built to the code that it's for. It would be built to an assembly recreation type use. There's other kind of uses that are assembly uses. So, I mean, those are some of the things that come in the building code design of it and whatnot. As was pointed out, you don't have a lot of restricted commercial zone and you don't have a lot of undeveloped, but especially when you look at your overlay zone for the town center, it really is a lot of a redevelopment tool, right? It's not just a development tool, it's a lot of, how we might see that change over time. And that's why it's as large and includes as many properties as it does.
Thank you.
That's it? Commissioner Foley?
All right, well, going on what Caesar had said regarding, could it be specific? Basically, what we're doing here would be opening Pandora's box. So if we make a text change, it's for all RC, restricted commercial, throughout the town. And I think, based on what Justin Russo, on number 8, which is on the report where it said, "A change to the text of this magnitude is not likely to have a large impact on the broader extents of South Windsor. However, residents in proximity to these zones may be impacted by such change due to the increasing demand of indoor recreation." And to add to that, my concern, based on Kevin Clark's comments, are that when people come home at night and it's their home and they want to relax, and next you know, there's a party leaving, and there's just an influx of traffic, or on Saturday when they're trying to have a picnic at their house and you've got a party across the street every single Saturday. I'm sympathetic to the residents on this point. And I understand the whole overlay zone, but, I gotta hear more from the rest of the commissioners, but I feel sympathetic to the residents to, what they deserve when they come home at the end of the day, so
That's it.
that's all I'm done.
Commissioner Abramson?
Well, if I've read everything correctly, the only basis on which the commission could say no to the request would be if we felt it would have an adverse impact on the neighborhood. Am I
Not
wrong
with a
there?
text amendment, no, that's, you're not evaluating an impact. That might be a reason to not include it in the regulations, but text amendments are, those are really your call, whether you want those uses to be added or not. I mean, you don't have, it's not like they can appeal your decision, right? I mean, this is where you guys are legislating your regulations. You're putting something in there, so they don't, nobody has a.
It seems to
right
me
to
that
use.
an indoor recreation facility is permitted. That,
Based on your use table, it currently is not. I mean, your use table does not include it as a permitted use. If it's blank, it's not permitted. So currently, it's not permitted.
okay.
He's proposing to add it.
So we would be changing,
You're changing, this is a request to change your book. The
okay,
page in
now
the
I
book.
get it.
Here's the RC
Now I
zone.
get it.
There's the RC zone.
Yeah, actually, there's,
Yeah,
Mark, this was in our package.
Uh-huh.
So if you take a look, what Michelle has done is she's readied the SP special,
no, that's the applicant's proposal. He's proposing a red line proposal, what he wants. He wants it by site plan.
yeah. I stand corrected. This is from the applicant. So the applicant is saying, let's do site plan approval in this zone. Right now, it doesn't exist there, so it's not
Okay.
permitted.
As I read over this, I thought it was. I thought it was consistent. But if Michelle says it's not, it's
Oh,
not.
no, I don't say it's not. The regulations say it's not. I'm just interpreting what's in the
Well,
regulations.
but I trust your
Okay,
interpretation
thank
more
you.
than mine.
I appreciate that.
Welcome to your first meeting. This stuff is complicated.
Okay, yeah.
Do you have anything else?
I have a lot of questions about where they would put it and so forth, but I think that's for another day.
Yeah, and I'll reiterate something that Justin said, because I have to keep wrapping my head around this. This is about a text amendment change. And our inclination is to think in terms of site plan. That's not what we should be thinking about. It's text amendment. But there's ramifications to whatever decision we make, one way or the other. All right? Am I right in saying all that?
Yeah.
Okay. Commissioner Welch?
I don't have much to add. I would personally like to see the site myself, as like a sort of, like, see how things could be impacted, see what the neighborhood is talking about, and that is all I'll add.
So
It's,
you have that option
yes.
when.
I'm saying like, that is what I'll be doing after this meeting, like, some point in the very near future.
When we get our packets and we see the agenda, each of us can individually, if we choose, to go look at the site. I did that today.
Oh, okay, all right.
Again, this isn't site-specific though, just so everybody keeps that
Right.
in mind. We're not evaluating this site specifically. We're evaluating the
Gives
use.
us an overall.
Yeah, just
Yeah,
an over idea, but
it's
yeah.
kind of hard to wrap your head around what does the restricted commercial
So,
zone
so
look
we will
like.
evaluate it specifically if the use gets added and the proposal comes in.
So you could drive around to
Get an idea of the
restricted commercial
restricted
zones in
general.
town, which we have several areas like that.
Right.
But seeing a specific site's not
Thank you.
appropriate.
If we don't make this text amendment, then a package store could not go
No,
in
no,
on
no, no,
Deming
no,
Street?
no. All we're talking about is an indoor recreation. That's the only thing we're talking about tonight. Adding that to the regulation.
Just one second. Oh, just one second. All right, so this is the RC zone. And this is recreational activities, indoor including fitness. It is not included. Okay? So that's why they're here in front of us,
Oh, okay,
okay?
okay.
You can look at the other ones, things that are included, okay, by special exception or site plan, restaurants are included, fast food. So,
Okay.
Commissioner Kilburn.
This is how the sausage is made, isn't it? We hear about that, getting involved in your local town is how things are done, is trying to understand what's not easy to understand. And this dialogue has opened my eyes up to a lot of the skill and talent on this commission and how we look at things and make decisions for our neighbors and our businesses. It's fun to watch. We've covered all the bases that I wouldn't have thought of, so thank you.
So for me, this is a conundrum. On the one hand, I like the application, indoor recreation. And what I think about is, you know, I grew up in the age of indoor malls, and as we all know, indoor malls have been dying over the last 20 years, and the anchors are no longer there, they're dying, and what is replacing them is indoor recreation. So I love the idea of bringing more and better indoor recreation to South Windsor. How it fits into this particular application, though, is where my confusion comes in, and I find myself agreeing with a lot of the comments. It feels a little bit like the restricted commercial zone where there's residential in it should be looked at again. I'm not sure that putting businesses in areas where there's residential makes a ton of sense. So, like I say, I have split feelings on this, and it's something I guess we'll just have to continue to debate and deliberate on. There was a member from the public that wanted to speak. Sir, did you want to? You? Me? Yeah. No, the gentleman behind you.
Kevin Clark.
Yeah.
I'm
Do you want to
sorry,
come? Do you want to come back up and?
If it's okay?
Yeah.
no,
Sure.
thank-
If you have
thank
more to offer,
Yeah, no, I just,
I didn't recognize him with the hat on.
yeah, okay, sorry, yeah.
No, there you go.
There I am, so, thank you, it's Kevin Clark again, for the record, and I didn't mean to snap and jump in, my apologies, ma'am, it just,
okay.
when I heard the comment, you've been lucky so far, that just kind of bit me a little bit the wrong way, because I understand where you're coming from, but we do love our neighborhood, and we love the quiet community we have in that neighborhood, and it is a small part of Deming Street down there that it has been able to remain. There is a business in the neighborhood. It's a contractor. They're not there on the nights and they're not there on the weekends, and there are very few people there during the day when they are there. So we understand there is the ability to put things there, but I can promise you I would do everything in my power if I found out an Exxon or a Mobil was going to go in across the street from my beautiful home where we got horse that grazes in the field and cows in the pasture and stuff, and to have big businesses like that and lots of traffic, it's just not fair to us. So so that I just wanted to say, first of all, I apologize for jumping in and snapping like that. It just kind of, it's just like, that's not really fair to to look at it that way. But you do bring up a point. We are lucky to this point, but we would fight it as much as we could. So,
Okay.
so I thank you all for listening to me tonight and the consideration, and please do strongly consider it. I encourage you to drive by, take a look at the neighborhood and feel the sense of community down at that part of Deming versus when you go further towards Tamarack and all the other businesses, and what the difference is. And we want to try and hold on to that as much as we can. So we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for allowing me to come back up, Mr. Burns.
So, excuse me one sec. So, our decision about this change would not make a gas station more or less likely in their neighborhood? It wouldn't have any impact on something like that, would it?
The gas station isn't allowed in the restricted commercial zone.
So it would only be if you were to allow it through an overlay, which again, you have a lot of control with the overlay zone as to what and how
But
things
what I'm
would
saying is,
occur.
all we're saying
All you're dealing with tonight is
is
related
an
to.
indoor recreation facility can or cannot come into this zone. And that's all.
So one of the things that I think of when I think of evaluating general commercial versus restricted commercial is why we have the differences and what are the differences for. And when you look at your use table, there are very specific things that are not allowed in restricted commercial that are allowed. And that might give you some thoughts or some way to look at this, similar type uses. One of the things could be the size of a facility like this and how much parking and things, whether or not that meets your goals of the town center and vitality of the town center. Again, we put it in the general commercial zone. It's always been in the general commercial zone. Those are broader areas, larger areas of town zone, general commercial. The use is in our restricted commercial zone because again, you got town center, you've got Wapping Shopping, which is on Oakland and Felt, that's restricted commercial. You go down the other end where Bears Smokehouses, that's restricted commercial. You only got little scatters of it around town. They don't support a lot of large uses, right? And I think you'll find that it's more of the retail, local, smaller kinds of things that you see in there. Your town center is obviously your biggest area. So it might just give you some ideas of, when you look at the other uses that are allowed, some of the thinking of the types of uses in the different zones, and then look at your zoning map, which it's that light pink on there, that's restricted commercial, that's what we're talking about. So it gives you, a little bit of perspective, maybe to think about it. And although we put it on for a decision tonight, Paul, by all means, it doesn't need to be decided on. I mean, people might want to think a little bit more about it. You might want to keep the hearing open. I don't know. It's just up to what you want to do.
I think, like you were saying, the conundrum is that it's almost like if we had a site plan, right? First, where we could go, hey, and show it to the neighbors saying, nobody will ever be coming out to Deming. They could access through the condo, what do we call those?
Off of Buckland Road, that area there, yeah.
Correct. If it was accessed from the commercial use already and never to have any traffic out onto Deming with a landscape buffer that the neighbors never see. That's the difficult part for me, is that if that was in place, I'd be like, yeah, but it's the text has to come first, and that's the part that's.
Well, let me give you some thought then. So if you have specific concerns with this type of use in your restricted commercial zone, if you make it by a special exception use, you can put some criteria out there that you're gonna look at it under, right? Similar to what you did when you put it into the industrial zone, you put a set of criteria under which it can be allowed. You could
Access.
come up, you could come up with, maybe you want a size limit. I mean, I don't know, I'm just giving you some ideas of what you're, what I hear in your express, but if you have concerns of where it, you don't want it going past the single-family housing, the access drives, or, those are kinds of things that you can think of for this kind of stuff. I would certainly want to, keep the hearing open so that anything that you came up with could be commented on by the applicant as to, what their thoughts are, or maybe the applicant even has some thoughts themselves of what kind of restrictions they could live with or whatever, but that is something that could be done. Two different ways to look at it. You could, take action on this and direct staff to come back with something, and that almost might be, be a commission-sponsored type text amendment. a little hard to do a lot of changes when you just have a one-word change being requested, right? It's really not, we haven't really noticed the public that we're doing all this. So it's almost cleaner to, if you want to do something like that, to have it direct them to come back with something, or have staff work with them on something, or, those are just some ideas of what you can think of.
So I think I'm gonna be asking you to kind of repeat that, but put it in different terms. If we were to, let's say, approve this, what, for lack of a better way to ask the question, recourse do we have to put some controls around what we want to allow and not
You're doing the
allow?
cart before the horse. You should do that all collectively if you want to do that. If you want to do that, what you should do is one of two things. You should deny it without prejudice and direct the applicant to come back with some, they're listening to your conversation tonight, some parameters and, on proposal, or ask staff to do it, or, if you approve it tonight, you're approving either the request you have there, or you could put special exception, but again, I wouldn't add a list of criteria that haven't been vetted through a public hearing process. It really wouldn't be fair to most people, right, that might care.
So I feel like I want to go around the room again and get input, and then we'll take a vote on,
Well, you're still in the public hearing, so you decide what you want to do, sure.
yeah.
I mean, I think, there's really minimal restricted commercial in town here. And a lot of what this encompasses would suit some of this pretty well. I mean, I'm all for this recreation. I've got kids, we're going to the trampoline parks, so we're always looking for something to do. But I don't think in this part necessarily works the way I'm thinking of. I mean, you can't, have people coming in between, two residential properties to access a thing for a birthday party. I mean, I don't know how many of you have been to a, kid's birthday party recently, but I go to them all the time, and there's a lot of people. It goes there's kids running around, it's wild, they're yelling, they're screaming, it's not quiet. But, kids have to go somewhere, we have to do something, but I don't know how this works into this zone. I mean, we could take this right down, into the plaza there where, the daycare used to be and all that. And I mean, you could put something into that part, which is in the same zone, and it would work. But I just,
So what we're working towards here
I think
is.
to put this text amendment as
Well, a decision
over
to keep
encompassing
it-
all of this, like we have to
Yeah.
put some kind of stipulation into there to make this
well,
doable
it's-
for the neighbors and everything else, because that part of Deming is really all residential through that. It's all houses in that little stretch. I mean, what is there?
So where I was going is we're working towards deciding if we want to keep the public hearing open or not. And we want to move on this when we get into our regular business section. Commissioner
Well,
Dexter?
I think if we're going to ask for information to come back to us, or get some other thoughts or ideas, or people want to take a ride, whatever, we should probably keep it open. That way, maybe the public, other neighbors, other businesses in the area, parents, whatever, may want to chime in from a letter or whatever. But I will say, and not to be site-specific, but this is a 3.6 acre lot. So just throw that out there. And then Cesar.
Thank you. Yeah, I think, we should keep this open. I mean, there's questions that still need to be clarified, and maybe a little bit of research also from the staff. From my side, the objective of this is to actually, it's an amendment. It's really, as you said, Michelle, it's not site-specific.
It's correct. It's an amendment that would apply to all properties in the
Exactly,
restricted commercial zone.
and this amendment, it's over a zone that it's not that much in the town, that it's being utilized as a way to, as a tool, as you said, Michelle, for development of the town. And those are things that I want to take into consideration as well. So if we can keep this open.
Commissioner Foley?
Keep it open.
Commissioner Abramson?
I would not have a problem right now voting in favor of the proposed change. I have lots of concerns with traffic, with the impact on the neighborhood and so forth. But I think that I would want, I think most appropriately, those concerns would come once we had a site plan. I've looked at the property. I can't see exactly how this would work and how it would happen, but I think that site plan kind of concerns. The idea of putting indoor recreation in these zones, in principle, I would have no objection.
I would say keep it open.
Commissioner Kilburn?
I think in this instance, the text amendment applicant is looking for something that they can do in their area. And what we're hearing from is the neighbors, that if we go ahead and allow this change and so forth, we're really ignoring the neighbors who have spoken about their concerns, what and how they would affect it. We can keep the hearing open, but I don't think there's something we should approve for one applicant, because that's really all about. He wants the amendment changed for his needs. We have to look at for the needs of the people who live near him. That's just my approach. Let's make the residents important.
Do we need a motion?
If you have a motion, yep, keep it open.
Yeah, can I get a motion?
I make a motion to keep the application,
December 9th, I think is your next one.
Public hearing?
where are we here?
Kevin?
There we go. I say that we keep the public hearing open for application 25-43P, the Cherry text amendment. Thank you.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? More discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes.
So we come back on December 9th, is that what the next step, is that what you're saying?
Correct, the hearing's been held open for that. Same place, whatever.
Thank you, Michelle. So the public hearing for tonight closes at 7:51. Now we move into our regular meeting. Good evening, I'd like to call the regular meeting of South Windsor Planning and Zoning Commission for Tuesday, November 25th to order. We don't have any commissioners alternates that need to be seated. First order of business is minutes.
Minutes are still in progress. They will be in your package for the next meeting.
Okay, no minutes. Next order of business is public participation. Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak on something not on the agenda this evening? Please step forward. Hearing and seeing none, we will move on to our agenda. And we will not be moving on our first agenda item. So we will move to item number 2. Preliminary discussion with Rick Tanucci. Am I pronouncing that right?
Yes, sir.
Regarding potential use of property at 35 Spielman Road.
You're gonna sign your name on the sheet up there, if you wouldn't mind. There you have it. We'll trip on that word Josh has got there. Let's see that. So we just handed out a aerial of the property that Mr. Tanucci owns that he's gonna talk to you about. So that's just the southernmost part of South Windsor, Route 5. Spielman is, used to be Ellington.
How you doing? My name is Rick Tanucci. I was from Unionville, Connecticut. I'm a 51-year taxpayer, owner in the town of South Windsor. I own the miniature golf course, the baseball batting cages, the ice cream business. at 75 Spielman Road, used to be known as Ellington Road. About 10, 15 years ago, town/state did a lot of work down there. The ending result was my road got cul-de-saced. So I have zero traffic down on my property. Was I interested in selling my business? No. I got approached by my neighbor, Anthony Benito. He owns the mobile gas station next to me. We talked. He came up with a few ideas, and I guess that's what I'm here about tonight, to throw these ideas out at you guys. Thank you for your time, by the way. Some of his thoughts were a possible expansion of his mobile gas station. He's been there a very long time also. Whether it was to look into maybe doing some diesel work over there. I thought a great idea that he had come up with, but that's another idea down the road, was I feel it's a need in this town, basically in a nutshell, a truck stop. Many morning, my piece of property is thin but long, and I have a nice parking lot there, level, etc. But because I have no traffic, my only site to advertise my business is for people out on Route 5 to see me. So many mornings I come in to open up 10-ish, 11-ish, and there's a 18-wheeler parked going straight across my property. I feel really bad, but I have to go and shoo them out. Most of the times, the guy is in there sleeping. They're very polite. They can't be any more accommodating. They understand. I understand their situation, but and they go, and they're always like, "Do you know where I can go?" Because I guess I don't know a lot about trucking industry, but I guess they have times, and they can only get into a place at a certain time, and etc. So, and I always go, I don't know where to tell you to go. I really don't know where to tell you to go. At the end of my road is a really big, the town/state did a great job on the cul-de-sac, extremely big. And I tell them, so pull out, they go, go down there and come back, and they do it, no problem. So I actually feel there's a definite need for something like that. I'm commercially zoned. There's the mobile gas station, there's a funeral home, and it's me. And behind me is the railroad tracks, rarely used. I do have Michelle printed out something for me, if anybody wants to see it. And that's pretty much it. I'm here just to throw that idea. Like I said, is my place for sale? No, but as Tony approached me, we can everything's for sale, and we can talk. And so those are a few of the ideas. Like I said, this is a preliminary meeting, and that's it. If anyone has any questions.
So this is just discussion, so I will open it up for commissioners to ask Mr. Tanucci any questions that they may have. Well, I'll start. Are you talking about leveling your existing businesses?
Yes.
So no more golf, no more batting cage, no more.
It's been 51 years.
Yeah, I know.
I'm not getting any younger. And I try to be careful. I pled with the commission 15 years ago. None of you guys were here, and said, please don't close my road off. You're gonna kill me. And it did. I have no traffic, zero. So, and I said, and sure enough, now it's coming to fruition. I said 15 years ago, never mind what you're gonna do to me on a year-to-year basis, making a living. I said, what are you guys doing to me for resale? Oh, don't worry about it. Everything was don't worry about it. I have a little anger about this, you know, so on and so forth, because, you know, I don't think it was right and necessary to do it. But, and sure enough, here it is, you know, but Tony has approached me and, you know, as the Godfather said, you know, sometimes make me an offer, you know, I can't refuse. So, you know, we've talked, and I think it's a great idea. I gotta tell you the truth. I mean, it gives these guys a place to go. It's commercially zoned. It's a beautiful flat piece of property. You know, however, I know he's done his facts and figures. So, yeah, you know, but I mean, I couldn't be there forever. So, you know, retirement is, and you know, if this doesn't work out, you know, I'll still be there and still go and see what happens.
I'm sure you have questions, no?
I was pedaling my bike when I was 10 years old down that place, so I know all about it. Staple of the community, Rick did get screwed. I'll say it just like that. But on the other end of it, when you enter the town, you know, it's the one thing you don't want to start out seeing is a truck stop. You know, welcome to South Windsor, home of all the distribution centers, and we have a truck stop down the street. And at Mestec, they had to put up Jersey barriers to keep the tractor trailers from parking there at night and dumping. You know, they were servicing their trucks. I don't think this is the place for it, Rick. I know you got smoked when the whole road got closed and whatnot, but it's just not the entrance. You're coming right into town, and the first thing is a truck stop, and I don't think it's for our identity. I don't think it belongs.
Doesn't surprise me.
Just out of curiosity, have you looked into the economics of that kind of business? I have no idea, like what a trucker pays or.
That's not my, that would be Mr. Benito's.
Okay.
Question for Mr. Benito.
I mean, you'd hate to level the thing and then find out the economics don't work, you know?
That's on him.
Okay. Any other?
Yeah, I was curious, when you, because I wrote down all these options that you had mentioned. The first one you mentioned was diesel work. What do you mean by that?
Possible some diesel pumps so that the truckers could pull in.
Oh, part of a truck stop would be diesel
Yeah,
pumps.
you know,
I see.
Tony's throwing these. I don't know if I want to step on him. He's throwing me some terrific ideas about. I have a couple of buildings already on the property that he has looked at and said, I think my ideas can work. Whether it was housing for, you know, whether it's showers or give these guys somewhere that they can go and have a safe situation and so on and so forth. And he said he could, you know, he could use the two buildings that are already there, so he would not be those would not be coming down. Basically, you know, bye-bye windmill, bye-bye, you know, rocket ship, bye-bye batting cages. But pretty much the other the two main buildings that are there now, he said, you know, he can use those.
How many trucks do you think you could theoretically fit in there? I mean, it's a pretty narrow lot.
Right.
You'd probably back them in. I mean, that's a little tough turnaround to even get trucks lined up in there, right?
They wouldn't be turning around. They'd be entering, and then they'd be exiting out. There's another in the middle of the property.
I'm just trying to think how they'd park in there and how to
Well, you know,
logistically do that.
you line them up. You know, I mean,
I know.
once again, not my business. My business is.
Oh, I know
selling miniature
how
boats.
trucks turn around, and
Yeah.
mean,
And I talked to Michelle about this, and you know, she feels, and then heading down to the cul-de-sac, like for lack of better words, pull a U-ey, come back out, which is what they do now all the time. And I hate to shoo these guys out, but you know,
just another crazy idea. And I don't know if it could be zoned on it, but how about some food trucks? Give a place for people that park food trucks in there.
I hear you.
Like down in New Haven, they have them all down by the wharf down there. There's nowhere to get a good food this part of Route 5. There's really not like a quick fast food place. We got McDonald's and all
listen,
that. There's a few
Once
food
again,
trucks
though.
here and there, and
Once again, though,
I'm just
no,
spitballing things.
I appreciate the thought. Once again, try to do that without traffic. Try to do that without traffic. When your wife sends you home, says, "Can you get some milk on the way home?" And there's a Cumbie on the right and a Cumbie on the left. Which one do you pull into? You know, in, out. Well, like I said, I used to have a heck of a lunch business there. That's gone. And the reason I'm still there, by the way, it's because of 51 years. That's why I'm still there. I mean, I recognize numerous people here. I've been here a long time. It's not my first rodeo, and but it's been difficult. Let's put it that way.
Sure.
But you know, I have the place paid off. If I didn't, forget it. You know, and I understand that the economics of the times, but like I said, no traffic, tough. You know, they told me, how about if we switch? We own many parcels of land in town. How about if we give you and we take over? This is about 15 years ago. I said, great idea, sounds good. You got anything on Route 5? Yeah, we got some spots on 5. Beautiful, let's go. Who's gonna pay to re-put that place up? I'm not gonna put a rocket ship up in 2010. I'm gonna put a mountain with the waterfalls, and you're talking, I don't know, $1 million. Underground electrical, underground plumbing, big job. And he was there, oh, well, you know, I says, well, I can't just take my place and plop it, you know, and they said, yeah, okay, you know, so on and so forth. So, like I said, I'm commercially zoned. Tony has access to 5. The funeral home or Lou's restaurant, Lucian's, access to 5. My only access is to Spielman Road.
Rick, let's see if we have any other comments from commissioners. Anything? Comments, thoughts?
So, if I may,
Sure, go ahead.
regarding the layout, you're, as you said, within the blue area, just like completely pave over, like remove the batting cages, the mini golf area, and just turn that all into parking lot?
Pretty much.
They paved Paradise and
There, parking lot.
And then just like the freestanding, I'm just getting clarification because it's a very awkward layout.
It is an awkward, it's a slice of pie, is what it is, it's a triangle. The widest part is at the beginning, and it goes down all the way down to the cul-de-sac. It's
And-
a long piece of property.
And how often did you encounter like a trucker here or there, encroaching on your property?
Easily four times a week.
4 times a week?
Yeah.
Okay.
I feel bad for these guys. I mean, you know,
Drive down Route 5 anytime before 6 in the morning, and you'll see them parked everywhere.
Yeah,
I
you
mean,
know,
it's
but
they're also not the cleanest, and they make a mess of things. I mean, look at the new Pride Station. It's been open 2 years. That place is torn up.
Okay.
They backed into every single fence. They backed into curbs. It's
Right. But if I know Tony, it won't be a mess. Believe me.
Have you ever tried to sell the property?
Pardon me?
Have you ever tried to sell
No,
the property?
no, because I'm old school, don't want the word out. Like I said, I opened up my little talk to you guys. It's not for sale.
Yeah,
You know, because believe me, I get the, hey, I hear your place is for, I don't want it to be lame duck. Because, you know, if, let's say, whether this works, let's say it doesn't work out, or I'm back there April 1st, you know, because so on and so forth. But I'm not as young as you guys, so, you know, but,
a good place for a bounce house facility.
staff,
Goes
any
with one's
comments or
job.
thoughts on
No,
her?
what I did suggest is if it were something that the commission had any desire in seeing text, I mean, a couple complications with property, it's under the I-290 corridor development zone, so, you know, it's an odd piece because it doesn't meet any of those zonings. Its history used to be general commercial way back when, but it's now quarter development. But, you know, I could envision if one were to want a regulation, what I was thinking is, well, you could control it as an accessory to a primary use so that you have that control, because I know the concern is making sure that you would have on-site visual, right? You wouldn't want it to be something where the owner had some vested interest in making sure it works. So, you know, similar to where we've done accessory uses to primary use, you know, could I craft a regulation that requires fencing and coverage? Sure, you could. But again, until the commission has a desire for it, it's not worth anybody's time to craft a regulation. So my point was anything can be crafted if it were something you wanted with parameters, but I know the commission's concerned about truck traffic, and you know, we did create the travel service zone, which is what did create Pride, and we did account for some on, you know, parking on site. So I get a lot of phone calls, this is Justin will get more as years go on, of wanting truck facilities. People just need a place to park trucks. It is definitely a demand, but we don't allow it as a freestanding use currently.
So I agree with Commissioner Foley. We work so hard and we're so focused on what I'll call the gateways into the town. You know, the amount of time and effort and energy we put into trying to make them as pristine as possible. So I'm inclined to agree with Commissioner Foley, but, you know, I didn't realize who you were until you got up there. I brought my kid there when he was 8, he's 25 now, and, you know, we would come like every day to the batting cages, and, you know, I'll do whatever I can to work with this commission and staff to come up with, you know, other kinds of ideas. I'd like to work with you on that.
I'd appreciate that. Remember, you come off of 291, that's the gateway. That's the entrance to South Windsor, even though the actual line is down by me. But when people are coming up 5, people actually think I'm East Hartford. They actually think, oh, you're in East Hartford, and you know, this is East Hartford, right? And it's that, no, when I, you know, directions on, you know, on the phone, so on and so forth. But going back 15 years ago, remember, you come off of 291 and there's the big sign, welcome to South Windsor. So everything's, you know, visual. And I know what you mean, Kev. But like I said, I wanted to present this idea to you guys. And that's it.
All right, well, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I'll be there April 1st.
I know you will.
On your bike?
Yeah, wish.
We have another discussion with Scott Kelly regarding a new residential design district.
Oh, do I get to talk on behalf of Rick's thing or no? That's a question.
Sure. Why don't you come up, identify
Some of the
yourself?
questions you had, that was all. If I can't, I won't break any rules.
No, no,
Stuff-
please.
Stuff good with part of this thing.
We are open.
Live at 246 Hilton Drive. I own the gas station at 779 Jonathan Boulevard. And for 31 years, I've owned a gas station at 84 Jonathan Boulevard. I'm Rick's neighbor. I am not a multi-million-dollar corporation. I'm just me with a bunch of loans that I paid off. Rick and I spoke a little bit. He was interested in possibly retiring. I said, well, what can I do with this piece of property? Because he wants a sizable amount of money for it to retire on, which makes sense. So first thing I thought of was putting a small canopy, 2 diesel pumps there. I think I can put 10 to 15 trucks in a place. But I spoke briefly with Michelle, and she said that you all were not in favor of this idea. So before I started spending money on architects and planning and that sort of thing, I just want to come and see, you know, if there's a chance that could even happen. Yes, I would pave as much of it as I could. Michelle said it's only 60% I would pave. I would probably want to pave more. I would keep the 2 buildings that are there. If you've seen my site, it's clean, it's not run down. I'm an owner operator. I'm there every day. I got 1 light bulb out. I got a guy coming to change it next week. The place is immaculate. So we would take really good care of the place. The plan would be to take one of his buildings and put showers and toilets in there for the drivers. The other one, at some point, we would offer some food service. I can maintain it from my property, which is across the street. We have sight lines. They make probes that you can use through the internet somehow, so we could monitor the diesel fuel and tanks there. I thought it was a way that I could expand my business and give Rick an opportunity to retire. Rick wasn't the only one that got the short end of the straw when they closed Ellington Road. I lost 50% of my business when that road closed because you can't get to my gas station from South Windsor now unless you come down Route 5, make a U-turn, pull in and go back. So I lost 50% of my volume when that road got closed. Just for kicks, I lost half my volume when Pride opened 200 yards up the road from my other gas station. So, you know, it's been tough. I have made it. I'm doing okay. I'm a survivor. I would like to have the opportunity to expand my business if I could, doing some diesel business and truck parking. And I don't know if I can charge for truck parking. I don't even know if that's a possibility. I'd have to find out. But I thought it'd be a way I could expand my business and help Rick out at the same time. I'll answer any questions you might have. It's very preliminary. I'm just finding out what is possible.
Questions? Thank you.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
All right, Scott, I think you're up.
I think so too.
I'm trying to find my glasses. I don't know. Oh, sorry.
Good evening, commissioners and town staff. I'm Scott Kelly of 845 Main Street in South Windsor. Congratulations on your elections, all you new guys. We want to have an informal discussion tonight about a new residential zone for South Windsor, what we're thinking about. I'm here tonight with Peter DeMalley from Design Professionals and Rich Strawn, who lives at 394 and 432 Graham Road. He has been in town, it's the old, where Richie lives, it's the Strong Road property, it's the Strong property over there. He's got 8 acres. Richie's lifelong resident of South Windsor, he owns Strong Auto. We went to high school together, class of 79, South Windsor High School. Richie called me up and he wants to develop part of his property. He has 8 acres. Most of it's in the A20. All the road stuff's in the A20. The rear of the property's in the RR. And he wants to develop it. He wants to keep about 1.5 acres for himself, for his house, a new garage. That's it. Which would leave 6.5 acres for development. So he said, what do we want to do? So we started noodling with it. And so I laid out an A20 subdivision, which gave me about 10 or 11 houses. I didn't go to Peter for help, just did it on paper. New road. And I laid out about 850 feet of road with a 25 unit SRD, senior residence, modeled after Podunk. I did Podunk, what was it, 15 or 20 years ago, whatever it was. People seem to like it, so we kind of stuck with the same concept of there. Had the architect take a look at it, change the houses a little bit because of today's standards versus what it was back then, but basically kind of the same type of neighborhood. Dennis Dade was the architect. We went to him, kind of noodled with the houses a little bit, and came up with a really nice SRD.
times have changed a little bit for this, so now we're coming up with some new ideas. I know Kenny Boynton is doing, he's got 50 over there on Orchard Point, right on Foster Street, right, thank you. And New Rears, look, they're coming in with maybe 69, that's, you guys are doing that pretty soon. And I saw we're down east is doing maybe 210, that's a lot of units, you know, so we're trying to think of something new, something different. So we had a meeting with town staff a few months ago, and I think it went really well, and we were kind of throwing out the idea of merging an SRD with a DRZ. DRZ was the old zone 15 years ago, was it maybe, whatever it was, that was the
Well,
design
it
and
wasn't that many
residence
long,
zone.
I mean, you had it as recently as 3 or 4 years ago, because Clark Estates 2, Schoolhouse, those are all DRZ zones. DA 15 was the one that was
DA 15 was
a long time ago.
That was a long time ago. Yeah. And so we pitched the idea to the town staff. We talked about a bunch of different things. Michelle had a bunch of comments, and she says, obviously you gotta go to the commission, have a talk, and bring this up, because we wanna do something different. So, I have a couple issues. The market has definitely changed. I have 2 kids, they're both out of school now, out of college now. My son lives down in Savannah, he is in that group, he's 23 years old. He's in that group of probably not gonna get a house until he's 40 years old. And that really bugs me, that's what the new demographic is. I know it was 38 years, a couple years ago, 38 years old. Now I hear it's 40, so it's already changing in the wrong direction. However, we bought our first house when I was 25. Times have definitely changed, there's no question. I think probably most people in this room have bought a house long before middle-aged, 40 years old. So anyway, we're kind of noodling with this new idea of bringing back, like, not the DRZ, but something similar to it. We would like to, well, Peter's gonna talk about the zone thing, what we're gonna talk about with that. I talked to people at Podunk. Podunk Ridge is the 55 and older community on Ellington Road. It's kind of down by the mill, across the street. There's 21 houses we did in there, and I said to you guys, because I stay in touch with the neighbors there. So I talked to some of them, I said, what would you guys think about having kids in your neighborhood? A lot of them said, we love to have kids. It's more fun in the neighborhood. Some of them said, we would like to have kids, but you gotta put them in the cul-de-sac. So I said, well, we can do that, but a lot of different ideas. So this kind of started the noodle of maybe get a SRD-sized development, those types of houses, but make it so it's not age-restricted. That's kind of where we're heading with this, all right? So what's bugging me is about the kids not being able to buy houses. I know my first house I ever bought, I bought it with a friend of mine, and we didn't keep it very long, but we could live there, and that was a lot cheaper back then too. But, smaller houses, definitely, I'm not sure what the word affordable would be, but it was trying to do it like maybe, less amenities, like, some carpet instead of hardwood, that kind of stuff. Try to get the prices down a little bit and make it a zone where younger people could afford it, That's my dream. I'm not sure I can realize that or not, but we don't have an application in. This is just an informal discussion. I know if you guys wanna approve it tonight, I gotta fill an application really quick with Michelle, so I don't think that's gonna happen, but anyway. Peter, Design Professionals, you guys mostly know Peter, he's gonna talk about our whole idea. And Peter will keep it brief.
No.
Not like Kevin's standards.
Yeah.
Exactly.
My God.
I just want to thank everyone who's volunteering to be on the Planning and Zoning Commission. Commissioner Foley returning as vice chairman, Commissioner Dexter, who has been long-term on here, including as an officer, secretary, and Commissioner Bernstein now moved up to chairman. Thank you very much. And then we have Commissioner Kupchunas, who moved up to full member. Thank you. And Commissioners Lopez and Abrahamson is back. I remember him when he was on before. We had fun. And then Commissioner Welsh. So, thank you very much. And Commissioner Kilborn, who's back as an alternate, thank you very much. I've known him for years, he's on ZBA among many other things, right, in town.
Been a long time.
What's that?
Been a long time.
It's been a
You're an
long time.
inspiration.
We're having a lot of fun.
I was gonna have your energy when I'm 72.
So anyways, thanks to all of you for your service to the town. I'll sign in a minute. What I think Scott prefaced it, you know, the pipeline for SRDs is very big. There's a lot of product coming along the line. So they were first thinking about the SRDs, and then they said, well, that's out, the market's not there for that much. So then they're talking about on Graham Road, and by the way, it's 394 and 432 Graham Road, and that's where Rich and Sheila live, their house, and then as Scott mentioned, they want to remain there in a house, maybe an acre, acre and a half, whatever, that type of thing, and still remain there. So the property is just on the north side of where Toll Brothers built their big development, part of the St. Margaret Mary Church property on the north side, if you remember that when that was done. So it's on the north side of that, so just under 8 acres. So with the market changed, now they're looking at what else they can do. And, you know, the idea of building some, and I've had conversations with some commissioners about what about families who want to live in town? But you know what? The cost of building a single-family home in a subdivision right now, you know, it's roughly $1,500 a lineal foot for the street infrastructure. The land costs are high, and the building costs are out of sight right now. I'm hearing, and Scott can tell you better because he's got houses even coming under contract to do a single-family home on an individual lot. You know, you're talking $800,000, $900,000, $1 million is not unusual these days. Look at what they're going for up at Chestnut Ridge, Manarinos, and what's going to be happening. You're not going to be seeing many because the costs of all the development costs just too high. They're going to be building bigger homes. And they're beautiful homes, but they're going to be out of the reach of vast majority of residents. So they would like to do a cluster, bring back cluster housing regulation, similar to what you have for the senior residence development, but not age restricted. And they previously called it, you know, we had the DA 15 zone many, many years ago, and then we had the design residence zone, which was repealed. So we've got those to consider what we could go back to, but we like a lot of the changes that have been done to the SRD could apply to a non-age restricted development. So they like to consider modifying the DRZ, incorporating some of the SRD changes we've done of late. So, you know, that's 4 units per acre if you have some duplexes and some single family. Then you get the density up. Without the density up, you can't spread the burden of the infrastructure and the land to enough to bring the prices down. From a typical single-family subdivision where the prices are going to be very, very high. Multifamily, just multifamily alone, it's basically 3 or more units in a building. That's 5 per acre. But so we're you know, and it's just single families, 3 units per acre. So that's what the regulations state in the senior residence development. They like that. So it requires site plan and benefits. Some of the commissioners have not been involved with these other regulations, aren't familiar with them yet. It requires site plan and special exception approval. Special exception is mandatory public hearing, and there are 15 review criteria in the regulations for all special exceptions. So additional review criteria as opposed to just site plan like somebody had earlier in the evening, suggesting site plan, which does not have all those additional review criteria. And also, it would be, and if you look at, by the way, section 8.4 is where you find all those 15 review criteria. Homeowners Association it would be a private road, and the homeowners association would maintain the private road and the entire infrastructure. So the cost of the town is greatly diminished. So you get the yield from motor vehicles, you get the yield from the homes. So taxes, it's a pretty good deal from that perspective. You get a lot of taxes without a lot of costs. Aside from schools, and we can talk about that in a minute. Unlike a single-family subdivision where there always are a public street, where we have to maintain them forever, the town forces. including reconstruction after 30, 40, 50 years. So we're considering, or suggesting it's owner-occupied housing. And with no townwide cap like you did with the SRDs, senior residence developments, that's 55 and older development. Maximum for their parcel would be 25 units based on your current regulations for SRDs. So that'd be the maximum you could do, but there's a net buildable acreage formula. They'd have to qualify under that. So for every net build that's anything with wetlands or floodplain or steep slopes on it doesn't qualify. So the formula is based on the type of housing. If it's single family, 3 units per net buildable acre, not necessarily for the whole thing, but there isn't much in the way of anything steep slopes or wetlands or floodplain on property. There's no wetlands or floodplain on property. So the regulations state that if you have over 20 units up to 36, I believe it is, you can do either recreation land, or you can do a clubhouse per se, 1,000 square feet minimum. It's either in a building or a detached building or a separate one. And then when you get above that, which we're not proposing, these guys are not proposing because they don't have the land for it, but if you go up larger tracts, you can have over 36 units, and you have a community building is mandatory, and you drop the required recreation down to 300 square feet per unit. And you have in those regulations, they can live with those, the size of units, but as Scott was mentioning, this will be smaller than what you're going to be finding in the single-family subdivisions. So you have a minimum in there, minimum 30%. Minimum 30% of the units are 1,800 square feet or less, but that means you could have 70% of them 1,800 square feet or less. And you also have a provision in there, up to 30% can be 2,200, 2,400 square feet in the SRD regs. So the idea that they have is to have primarily two-story buildings, as opposed to what's going to happen for the most part in SRDs. Primarily two-story buildings, because you have the typical Cape, where you have like a one bedroom on the first floor, and maybe you go upstairs and with a bath, and then you go upstairs a full bath with 2 bedrooms, typical type of thing. Maybe they have some colonials, and maybe have up to 4 bedrooms. But the original regulations, I was looking through DRZ, the key was average about 3 bedrooms. The other thing with regard to affordability, we're looking at, the town, you had your affordable housing study plan, developed it, and you established a housing trust fund. So the first payments into that trust fund, I think it's $12,750 per unit, will be from the 4-lot subdivision for John Jakes when that gets approved. So that's $51,000. Our thought was that the town has not been able to do their own affordable housing per se, for the kids starting out. Kids who graduated from high school, lived in town, want to come back, like Scott's kid, and they want to come back to town and have a single-family home. Other than the big ones that are going to be built in subdivisions. This would get an opportunity for housing just built for them. And if you were to have, so how do you hit the affordable? You either have 2 options. You have 15% right now in your senior residence development zone, and we've had testimony in one of the hearings, costs developer $200,000 for each of those units, a loss. So $200,000 loss. And that adds up really quickly. If you do it for their development, if we have 25 units, it end up being four houses. So it'd be about $800,000 loss, give or take. They'll go up and down a little bit on that. So the other alternative is to have what you do now for single-family subdivisions. You realize you're not going to put a real little house next to these McMansions, what have you. So given that, you allow for a payment in lieu of. So if you just make math easy, if it's $10,000 a unit, but you do apply that to every single unit, so it's 25 units times $10,000, all of a sudden, instead of just $50,000 in the kitty, we end up having $300,000, $250 here for this project, and we have if it's 25 units, and then we end up with another 50 from John Jakes, you already have up to $300,000. You start thinking about, you might be able to do something with that trust fund. So that's a thought. You could have a lump sum fee for each house, and then you have something. if you look at, those of you who've been involved, and I have with the housing authority, they've wanted to do congregate housing right over Flax Hill, they have the land for it. Looked at that before. They could never get the grants and the money for it. And they don't make any money on the housing, renting them out, they don't get any money. So states don't have any grant money and stuff to do that. They'd like to do that. Just one affordable housing project. Because not everybody can afford to go over to Evergreen Crossing and pay, was it $5,000 a month or whatever. So there's an opportunity for people who are seniors, who are on fixed incomes, have relatively low incomes, who could go into something like that. There are other opportunities to do other kinds of affordable housing that's available so that the kids coming back from the high school, you can, technical school, college, just starting out, they can't afford any kind of single family home initially, that they can get into some housing, apartments primarily, has to be denser, so that the kids can stay in town. That's a good thing to do that. So you'd have your trust fund to help you facilitate that kind of thing. And if there are other SRDs, you're going to be, if you have other developments like this, cluster housing, non-age restricted, they'd be paying into it, as well as the occasional single-family subdivision, of which there are not going to be many lots created in the foreseeable future. We just don't have the land for it. So that's our consideration on that. So we could have a lot of opportunities for keeping the kids in town who grew up in town. My kids, when they started out, they both finished up at South Windsor High School. And then they went on to college, and then they got back. And where do we live? You live with mom and dad. That really wasn't an exciting option for them, or for us, for that matter. It's time to move on. Although a lot of kids have to do that these days. Tons of kids are living with their parents in their 20s and 30s. What other options are there for them? And maybe this housing trust fund can help make that type of thing happen so those kids can stay in town. Other than those kids who have very wealthy parents can really help them out, chances are they can't get a house right away. And as Scott mentioned, you have to be in your 40s right now to buy your first house, on average, right now, in the state of Connecticut. And, I bought my first house when I was 26, and I did. And it was an old house. We started out. But you're not going to do that right now, right out of college, with college debt, and with the cost of housing, with a $400 a square foot or something to build, something like that. It's extremely expensive. So our housing stock is aging, and the prices, I had an attorney who called me in town. A friend of mine called me up and he goes, I don't know if it is representing the buyer or the seller. He said, we have there are 4 bidders on a property off Hilton Drive, and there are 4 bidders on a property for under 1,000 square feet, and they're all over $400,000. I said, you're kidding me. He said, yeah, you believe this? Can't believe it. So there's an opportunity for us to do something for the community and for help out families. Because if you're only going to say, hey, we only have new housing for families, and it's only going to be single family, it's going to be non-age restricted. It's only going to be single family homes on very expensive lots, in very expensive homes. They're going to be large homes to cover their costs, the builder. So there really aren't any options. And the existing housing stock is really expensive right now. So maybe we can do something special with this by having a fund. I don't know what that number is. I just throw out 10,000 because the math is easy. But $250,000 from this development and get some others in, you'll get some money into the housing trust fund. Or you go back to what you have in the SRDs and just say, hey, we want the 4 units out of 25, and they're going to be affordable to people at 80% of the AMI, which is middle class housing, and they get in there and it's controlled for 40 years. So that's the other option.
Peter?
Yep.
I think we have the gestalt.
Okay.
This is a discussion, so I think, we'd certainly like to chime in.
So, yeah, just one more point, if I may.
Sure.
And that is that.
Make it one more point, Peter. One more point, Peter, okay?
And that is that.
Okay.
And that is that, you have the report just came out yesterday in front of you, which is the enrollment projections.
Yeah.
Right?
We've been wrong so many times, Peter, do me a favor, let's.
Just take a look at that.
Yeah.
I haven't looked at it. I don't know who has. I think Kevin is.
We all need time to digest all this and paw through it.
Yeah. So clearly, school population's an issue. I don't know if you want to briefly comment on that, but, what I have been led to believe anecdotally anecdotally is that the school population is starting to plateau and it's going to come down the other side, but that is probably has more to do with the elementary schools, and then, of course, the middle school and the high school are going to get, the bulk of that. So, are we looking at a middle school and high school problem? It would seem to me,
Absolutely.
it would seem to me that that
5 to
has to
7 years.
happen. How that plays into all this, I don't know, but, do you have a comment?
It's in the report, and the summary of it, by the way, is very good.
Okay.
That's for another time. All right, so now, right. Oh, man.
Sure, go ahead.
All right, so, did a lot of talking, Pete, and it's just going, like, you gotta give us a chance to digest. Like, you're talking wheeling and dealing and 10 grand here and 250,000 in accounts and stuff like that, but right now, it's an A20 and RR. How much of it is an AA and how much of it is an RR?
A20 in the front, right?
A20 in the front, whatever it may be. What do we have?
I would say if I had to like eyeball it, I would say it's probably 2/3 A20, 1/3 RR, or, somewhere close around there.
The A20 is all on the street.
All along the street, right?
And I think, Scott, when you mentioned the number of units you thought you could get there, that's based on all A20?
Yeah.
There was the assumption of a zone change to get
I
to
got
10
about 10
units.
lots.
What's that?
There was the assumption of a zone change to get to 10 units, right? Because the RR would have to go to A20 to get to the 10 units. that
Correct,
Scott
which,
talked about. Okay.
which I'm just being transparent. I don't think we have the appetite for this, to go making zone changes again. It's been biting us, and it hasn't stopped biting us. So I'm putting that out there. We cannot continue with this. We can't continue with this. Go ahead, Stephanie.
I have a question about this housing trust fund, because the first thing I heard from Mr. Kelly was bringing kids back into the community, making it affordable, but yet a trust fund is in lieu of affordable units. Is that correct, Michelle?
That's what the proposal they're putting in front
So, that trust fund will never go back into this project, or probably any that kids coming back into town would even see. So it's a little, Peter, don't get mad at me, but a little smoke and mirrors on the trust fund. I would have preferred for you to have come in and said, we're gonna do a 25 unit, 50% affordable, part at 60%, part at 80%, because we feel strongly about bringing kids back. But I didn't hear that. So I'm disappointed. I really am.
So what we're suggesting are two options with respect to affordable. Either keep it at what you have in the SRDs, which is 15%.
Right.
Which would mean if there were 25 units,
Good floor, yeah.
hypothetically,
Yeah.
it'd be 4 units.
Yeah.
Math rounds it up to 4 units.
Yeah.
Or you consider doing the option you have for single-family subdivisions now, or the requirement for single-family subdivisions, if you have, I think it's 3 or more units?
3 new building lots.
Yeah, 3 new
yes.
building lots or higher. Then you're required to go with payment in lieu of, and for single-family subdivisions, your house, whatever, it's $12,750 each. So that'd
Yeah,
be,
that's a sliding scale based on a zone, but.
And on
you're
top of it,
using-
you're gonna have association fees on top of it to make it a private community?
there would be home
So how does that making it more affordable though? That's just another thing on top of it for these people that, have their college loans and all this stuff, so. I mean,
It's housing that's more affordable than the big houses
I
that
know.
are being put in the subdivision.
That's true.
I mean, that's what, like, I mean,
And so-
down the
that is
road,
true.
Meadow, like that whole neighborhood, that was built as affordable housing back in the day. I mean, those houses off Meadow, right down past Graham down there.
Yep.
Those listed in, we had the ad, I showed you, it was like $16,000 you can buy those houses for. And, they finance it and all that. I think what it comes into with affordability is how are we financing these people? It's not of how we do it. It's a matter of how do we get these people up to bat to get a loan, to get into the houses. And obviously
Yeah.
everyone's reluctant after what happened in.
So
But I think there's other things that can factor into getting kids into these houses here, more so than just,
No,
building these high density areas for kids to jump into, and then they're stuck with association fees and all this stuff. I mean, that's not living free. That's not owning your own house when you're, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's my
No.
personal take on it, but.
No, but the relative cost, but it's a lot less than waiting for a single-family home in a single-family
Yeah.
subdivision, which would be out of reach for, maybe for a lifetime.
Yeah.
So if you wanna have people be able to come here and have a new home that's not as expensive as those, a lot, considerably less, even though it's a good homeowners association, it's still going to be a lot less money if you want that. But if you only want old housing stock and age-restricted housing, and the big house, a few big houses in single-family subdivisions, because there are only a couple big pieces left, then this is one option to look at.
The density that this could create for the Eli Terry School District is astronomical. We were told South Windsor Woods back in the day, the projections, and I'm not kidding you, you were around for all of that.
Yep.
We were gonna have 32 students at South Windsor Woods. Do you know what comes out of there?
Yeah, I do. I've seen it.
Well, it ain't 32.
Yeah.
Every projection, I don't care, I mean, I'm gonna keep it clean, but what you can do with this paper is projections, they've been wrong, the experts have been wrong every time in our town. Every single time, correct or incorrect?
I've seen it, you're right.
I'm 100% correct. So do with it what you may, but it's a bunch of crap. And it's costing all of us, is what it's costing. So
Okay.
I just have one last basic question, Michelle, you gotta help me out. Based on the way it's zoned right now today, with our interior lot, regulations and so forth, how many homes could be built?
It's a little tricky because you're gonna have A20 frontage that's gonna dictate, I don't know how deep the A20 is. I mean, that's a better question for Peter to go back to his office and
Okay.
really come up with, you're gonna have limited opportunity for public road because you're limited at 600-foot cul-de-sac length unless you've got somewhere to outlet it to, which I don't think you do, probably, right?
Unless you come back around, but.
No, you
Yeah, unless you do a
cul-de-sac.
loop road, so you're gonna do a cul-de-sac, so,
Yeah.
there'll be a lot of factors that'll come into play, but having the split zone is,
Is the first
yeah.
hurdle.
We had a split zone on the south, estates at South Windsor, just south of that, but if you recall, with an open space subdivision, an A20 zoning and an open space RR zoning is the same lot size, so it kind of worked out with how that got designed and approved. This lot's not big enough for an open space subdivision, so it wouldn't, you don't have the advantage of that.
But less than 25.
Oh, absolutely, just, it's 1 acre zoning in the RR and half acre in the frontage part.
Do you have any document or any kind of overview that, I could go back and look at and study and, because.
For what we're presenting?
Yeah,
No, we don't have one.
okay.
Oh.
It just, to Kevin's point, everything you presented had my head spinning, so for the new guys,
you know it off the top of your head. It's,
Yeah.
it's coming off you like this, cause you're a salesman. It's what you're doing, and we're just like, holy crap.
I think we're just trying to talk about the concept. We're not here with a subdivision plan. My idea was not to try to bamboozle anybody and say, you're gonna graduate college on a Tuesday and Wednesday you're gonna buy a house.
No.
That's not gonna happen. But it would be nice to have people be able to afford a house before you're 40 years old. And how do you do that? You can buy fixer-uppers, right? Anybody can do that if you're a fixer-upper. Or you can maybe get something that's smaller.
Do you wanna go to the front and
Sure.
present?
And, well, I'm not representing, but, I don't want to, it's not like, this is just a concept of how do we maybe get something more, not cheap, I hate the word cheaper, but more affordable, less costly by cutting down some amenities on it, making them smaller, one-car garage, carpeting.
But, the only thing I'll say to that, Scott, is then that's not the SRD regulation.
That's what your doesn't have anything to do with carpeting and stuff like that.
No, but it has to do with 2,400 square foot houses. I mean, your DRZ regulation that's an appendix here talks about 1,400 square foot houses.
Well,
So-
SRD allows me to go up.
So I'm just trying to.
Under 1,800. So if I'm at 100% under 1,800, that follows the regulation.
I would say what you're talking about is it's a little more lenient than your previous DRZ regulation was. In house size and affordability requirement, and density. So, if you're wanting to introduce what you used to have, like a DRZ, what you're talking about is giving you a bigger picture than that. We limited the size, you know, I'm saying, and maybe having some parameters specific would be helpful for the commission to look at. But when I hear you talking, you want it to be like the SRD, but you want it to be smaller houses. If the commission recalls, our SRD regulation made the houses bigger. And they made them larger projects and they did other things. So I wouldn't use that as my example, I guess is my point.
I didn't really know what the old DRZ regs were, didn't have
Well, right here on
those.
page two
But the
eighty-six.
SRD regs seem to fit, because if you're allowing me to go at least 30% under 1,800, okay, I can go 70% under 1,800, that's in the regs, it's already there. I'm not rewriting the Bible, you know? We could do some two families, keep the two families, 4 of them, would let us go into 4 units per acre, same as SRD. I just said the SRD, we like, Rich and I like the rules of the SRD. Get rid of the age restriction. We talked about the affordability thing, either going into your fund, which I wasn't even really sure what you guys spend the money on with the fund. But it was just an idea we're kicking around, either keep the
But you just-
15% affordable, or go into the fund that we were talking about. And I know you've already told me you like the idea of the affordable better than the fund thing. I wasn't sure one of the questions is, what do you guys spend the money on? With if somebody gives you $250,000, where does it go? I don't actually know. But, and then there was the age restriction, and then, the size of the houses, you know, so.
I think, Scott, and you're a builder, you know, you're a family of builders. You know what's going on in our town.
No question.
So, you know where, again, when I said it, what our appetite is, and it's, they can't take anymore. I don't care what this says, okay? Don't give me this thing. It has been wrong every single time.
It's worthless.
It is
It's a
worthless.
guess.
I don't even know why we pay people.
I could have done that for half price and guessed also,
100%.
you know?
Yeah, I'm just saying.
Whatever. It's not doomsday, you know, there's no question.
When
all
you
these
when you
kids
say
are
the word
aging up out
duplex,
of-
now you're starting to say doomsday to me.
No,
Like,
all the kids, here's what I think, maybe I'm wrong. When you move into town, and you come from wherever you come from, and you bring kids in, I always think you're bringing elementary school kids in. Because most families start with little kids. And then these kids all stay there for 5 years, and they go to TE, and then they stay there for a couple years, and they go to high school. So there's no question, we are going to have a high school problem, if my math is right, because all these kids are aging up. But do we have enough kids coming into the elementary schools in the future to support the number of classrooms we have, the number of chairs we have, and the teachers, or are we laying off teachers in 10 years? I don't know. According to that thing, we are, because the enrollment's gonna go down, because where are we putting all the kids? You're gonna buy a house in Birch Hills, or wherever you wanna buy a house, right? And take a family doesn't have, their kids are gone, and put kids there, but where are you putting new construction kids? There isn't any. There's really no land left. I mean, that's where this idea came from,
but that,
you know?
my point is, the land that's left, Scott, is we're not here to change zones. This stuff, these
I'm not gonna
rules,
change the zone.
no, but I'm just saying, these regulations were written for the good of our community.
Yeah.
Every application that comes in before, I've been here 15 years. Nobody ever comes up and says, hey, I got a plan. It's in an A20 zone. The criteria, the square peg's gonna fit through the square hole. Not once in 15 years has anybody come here saying, I just wanna follow the rules. Everybody wants to change, and all it's doing is the density is what's ruining the quality of the town. It's not, to me, it's about quality, not quantity, and developers, don't take offense, but developers are coming in, the more they build, the more they make. But it doesn't benefit the community. You had me when you're like, yeah, we gotta get a home for these kids. Well, you're a hard worker. I'm a hard worker. A lot of hard workers here. I had 3 jobs when I had to get my first home. These kids are all working 8 hours a day. I don't wanna hear, this is planning and zoning, but if we wanna fix the world, these kids are gonna have to figure out more than working just 8 hours a
You
day.
and I will definitely have, because I have a lot of ideas to fix the world, and I need a time machine for that.
Correct,
I mean,
correct.
I don't have a time
I'm
machine.
just saying, it's the debt, and I understand what you're doing, right?
Well, my idea is, it really bugs me that these kids are 40, they're middle-aged when they're buying a house, that sucks, you know?
It does.
So our idea is maybe, and I'm not looking to say every house we're building, because they're not age restricted, is gonna put families in there. What if your son wanted to buy a house with his friend, like we did? That's what Lakewood was. Lakewood was the same thing I'm talking about. Richie he said Lakewood-esque, which I love that word, because it's smaller houses, more affordable, because they're smaller, with carpeting and, you know, less of a house. Now today, the master bathroom is the size of this room. I'm like, where did this come from? Because we didn't grow up like that.
Right.
We had, the house at Lakewood that I had was one bathroom for 2 bedrooms. There was no master bathroom. You could have went down the hallway. What's wrong with that? Nothing. Because when I talked to my son, who's 23, he goes, we don't care about that. We don't need a house like, you know, with everybody has their own bathroom, that kind of stuff. So maybe let's go back in that a little bit. And it's just not age restricted, you know? But I didn't really, my intent is not to say, okay, everybody's moving in here has 2 kids. That's not my intent. Can I prevent that from happening? I'm not a lawyer, but probably I can. Because if I had my way, I'd make restrictions that I would say, you know,
that's my point.
If you're under 32 years old, then I'll probably get sued, you know?
That's my point, is that we look at these projections that are given to us, they're always wrong.
Yeah.
I'll take Seldon's or Wood, and just, there's well north of 140 kids coming out of there. We were told 30-something, right? It's damaging, okay? And we're all picking up the tab for it, okay? We haven't gotten a new high school yet, or what it's gonna cost. It's going to come.
It's coming.
Can we just stop the bleeding? Let's take the square peg that fits through the square hole. This is just my thought. Rich, listen, I understand, you know, don't take any offense. I've known you all my life. I want everybody to make the most that they can with what they have. It's their right to sell their land, but it's their right to sell their land under what we have here.
So just do an A20.
I mean.
Well, let's
He's not saying that.
Yeah, let's
It's
bring
not
this
what I'm
back
saying.
in.
Can I just add one?
Let's bring it back in. Hold on. Tonight is the night of enigmas, I guess. Conceptually, I love where you're going. I have a 25-year-old at home. And, you know, I think every day, how's he ever going to be able to buy a house? And I did some mother-in-law math the other day just to kind of, because he's a social worker, you know, for some reason he decided to major in psychology and he's a social worker. And so I did some mother-in-law math, and what I came up with, using basic assumptions, you have to make $136,000 a year to be able to afford a $350,000 home, which is kind of the average in this town.
Yep.
Rent, 2,200 average, you have to be making 109,000. You know, basing it on 30% of your income goes to housing, yada. He doesn't make anywhere near that, and I don't know that he ever will. But my kid isn't typical. Yeah, my kid, it may not be typical. The point is, we desperately need something like this. And, you know, I was thinking about, like, Googling. There have to be solutions to this around the country called experimental housing, you call it cluster housing, tiny housing. There's got to be ways to get really attractive housing for people in their mid-20s, 30, 35. So maybe, you know, the discussion is the right discussion to have. But, you know,
somebody's got to go first.
This is an issue. This is a real issue that we live with every day. But, you know, and I'll disagree with Kevin, you know, to me, making a zone change is the last thing I want to do unless there's some super compelling reason to want to do it. And frankly, you know, I'm in my 70s. I don't know how old Kevin is. I don't know how old you guys are, but, you know, we need younger people to be buying houses in this town, because eventually we're not going to be here anymore. So who's it left to? So, you know, they have to start someplace, or they're going to leave the town like a lot of my friends have, and a lot of, you know, their kids have, because it's just not affordable. I don't know what the solution is. So, I mean, is there a cost associated with what you guys have been throwing around? Because if there is, I missed it.
The only thing I can tell you as a builder is if I take out some of the amenities, the fancy stuff, I can do the house cheaper. That's what I can contribute to society, right? I still gotta buy the dirt, I still gotta put in a road if that's required, I still gotta buy lumber. I can't get those prices down unless I ask for volunteers, which is not gonna happen. But I can make the houses smaller, you know, the square foot price is, you know, I'm a square foot guy. It's $250 a square foot, or whatever the number is, times how many square feet you have. Now, you still have one kitchen and probably a bath and a half, or 2 baths at the most, right? But there's no question, when I make them smaller, I can make them cheaper. Sell them cheaper, sell them less expensively, not cheaper, because I don't like that word. But that's the intent of this thing, you know what I mean? I don't have a crystal ball, I don't know, I don't have the great answer, but it's our stab at trying to help out this problem. I think it's pathetic that these kids are middle-aged before they can buy a house. That's pathetic. That's not the American way, you know? So I don't know if Michelle has any other ideas of how these things become more affordable. I don't know, but doing a regular subdivision, that's easy for Richie, for me, just put up some houses, big houses. SRD is easy, 55 and older. I kind of got the feeling from the scuttlebutt I've heard that some of you guys are kind of done with the SRD thing, the 55 and older, that's kind of played out. So we started noodling with, like, let's think of something else.
One thing about, so on that, Scott, is that every time, say Kenny Boynton's and all these guys are coming to us with these SRDs,
Yeah.
we kept saying, what about, like, what's the average square footage at Podunk?
Podunk was $13.99, $16.60, and $18.10.
So,
$18.10 was the biggest house we did.
so,
So let's say it's, what, 15, maybe, something like that.
so we kept hearing, you know, everybody's gotta have a place for their grandkids to come visit and all this stuff. So all these square footages, it went from
18 to 24.
yeah, well,
Yeah.
you and I age out, we go to an SRD, we're just moving from a neighborhood to an SRD with no kids, and we're selling our inventory to a family.
3 kids.
So now, the one thing we kept missing and we kept pushing, I think, for as a whole, was the 1,300 square foot SRD idea.
They work.
I'm just saying, that's what we don't have in our inventory, is that.
Yeah.
I'm just spitballing, I'm not, but, you know,
Here's my problem with the SRD thing, and I'm very vocal about this. Back when we did Podunk, you could sell your house in, I always say Birch Hills. You sell your house in Birch Hills for $290, and you could buy a house at Podunk Ridge for $290. You didn't have to go to the bank and take out a loan and take up some money out of your savings account to buy it. It was kind of an even swap. Now, you traded a bigger house for a smaller house, but you traded an old house for a new house with a new heating system. Everything's brand new. It's all under warranty. People, that's what people like. It's an HOA, yes, it's an HOA, but nobody wants to cut their grass when our average age was 72, not 55. And they want a grass company to come in and somebody to plow the road, obviously, because it's a private road, you know what I mean? But these days, it's different now. Now you're gonna sell your house in Birch Hill for $400, $450, and you're gonna buy an SRD for $8. So where are you gonna get the money from? You're gonna take it out of your savings? I talked to Ty down at IM Bank. I go, dude, if somebody came in there and they're retired, would you give them a loan? He goes, no, because how are they gonna repay the loan? They don't have any income coming in. If they have the money to buy the house, they're gonna take it out of their pocket to buy the house.
I just want to add a couple of comments.
Can you identify yourself and sign in for me, please?
My name is Rich Strong. I'm the owner of the properties.
Did I steal a pen?
You stole a pen.
I think Peter stole it.
I know it's hard for me to get a word in edgewise with Peter and Scott. But I will try and.
That's not our intent.
It's not my intent, or your intent. I know this is a hot button. I know the schools. I've been here my whole life. We're trying to propose something that makes people think differently. I heard your comment about your son being 25, lives at home. You said it's about the average, I think you said the average cost of a house in South Windsor is 300 and something?
350.
Okay. Show me a house for 350 in South Windsor. There's not a house I don't think there's any house in South Windsor there's two houses down the street from me on Steep Road. Both needed to be gutted, and they sold for over 4. And one's a raised ranch, one's a ranch, okay? This is the area we live in and the world we live in. So when we talk about affordable comes in quotations.
Exactly.
Okay? Because Toll Brothers houses are $1 million plus. And if we build the 820 houses, okay, in order for us to make it feasible, those houses will be $1.2 million, $1.4 million, okay? You're gonna build houses for 11 families, okay?
It won't be that many unless you get the zone change.
And it won't even be that many,
No,
so.
6 maybe.
All right, so 6, now the price has gotta go even more. So there'd be extremely, we're gonna build, 6 houses or whatever, and the prices are gonna be astronomical. So when we say affordable, maybe we're around 5 or 6, okay? But that 5 or 6, those people that just bought those $400,000 houses down the street from me, they dumped more than $100,000 in to have them redone. And they still have an old house. So we're proposing they get a new house for the same kind of money, and it's a starter house. Now, obviously, when we bought a starter house, it was less than $100,000. Okay, it's a different world today. And as far as overwhelming the schools, I hear you. And I've lived here and I've paid the taxes and my kids are long out of school, okay? But we have to look at the true numbers. And I agree, that paper, we could have did that in a half an hour and probably come up with as much of a guess. But the other thing is, I have a circle of friends. We all grew up here in South Windsor, okay? Say 14 of my closest friends. Out of all of our kids, you know how many grandkids there are? 1. So 1 grandkid. Kids do not have tons of kids anymore. You don't see, some of us grew up in families of 4 and 5. You don't see that everywhere anymore here in town or anywhere else. I know we've had a lot of kids. We had a certain influx with Toll Brothers neighborhood. We have a certain influx in the apartments. They have a 1-bedroom and they got 10 kids in there, and we fill up a bus in 1 stop. Okay? That's not necessarily, just because we build these houses doesn't mean everyone is gonna have 3 and 4 kids in it. Okay? So, you're thinking worst case.
We
okay?
have to.
I understand that. Okay? But that doesn't mean it's true, is what I'm saying, okay?
And what you just said about 1 grandkid, that may or may not be true.
I know that. I said, but I'm saying is, things are shifting.
Right.
Okay? You have a lot of alternate lifestyle people that don't have as many kids or have kids that used to. Or we have a different world. So those things are happening, okay? Those are things that we have to look at, that's all I'm saying.
All right, so I'm gonna bring it back. We're having a discussion. You're here to get input from the commission.
Yeah.
I would love to hear from commissioners on thoughts, questions, comments on this issue.
How small of a house can we build? Like, what's the bare minimum for a
There's no
criteria?
minimum. I don't think there's a minimum anymore.
No, no.
They make
Gotta be
micro
building
houses
codes.
that are
That's
400.
no. I see like the tiny houses and all, like 1 single bedroom, you got a little loft up on top of it.
We're not looking to build a mobile home
But I mean,
park.
they're
Yeah.
cool. They're aesthetically and they can
Well,
be
you
cool
guys
and
know
unique and all that.
Lakewood's 100 houses built
But I
30
mean,
years old, 1,200.
you can't put
Those
kids
are-
in it. You want a
those are
starter house? I mean,
1,200
that's something cheap. Somebody could own it. You can
Probably
make a small
1,200
lot onto
square
it.
feet.
1,200,
I don't
1,000
know.
square
Well,
feet.
I know a friend has a cape there and it's
It's
15.
a single bedroom. It's
Oh, yeah,
you own it. It's not an apartment. You're not renting it.
That was my
Those
first house,
mechanisms?
Lakewood was my first house.
I have a beach house, quote unquote house, near Musquamacut. It's 400 square feet with a 200-foot enclosed deck.
For 7.8 million.
It's in a trailer resort.
Yeah.
It's not a trailer. You wouldn't look at it and say that's a trailer, but it's livable and it's 400 square feet and it's very cool.
You can't prevent people from having kids. right? That's,
Correct.
that's.
We
a
need
fact
kids, we
gotta
want
live
one.
with. You need kids,
But
exactly.
We
But,
also
you know,
have to
I
balance.
think I'm right about the kids aging out of the elementary schools. I think I'm right about that. Cause I don't see a lot of people, where are you gonna put these new people? You know, that's kind of my idea. High school, we're in big trouble.
Cause they've
Maybe
all
middle school.
aged up to that point.
Exactly.
We had an influx and it's going up
It's
there.
definitely-
But you don't have a ton of new kids coming in the elementary.
The elementary school has stabilized, and soon it's gonna start going down the other way. So, we have some schools, we have plenty of school, seats in the schools, right? But the intent is to do something that's, like we're talking about, smaller, more cost-effective.
Eli Terry is not overwhelmed.
Excuse me, Rich. It's,
Pleasant Valley is, what you
Eli Terry's busting at the seams. Kate Carter could come in here and speak to you tonight, and she will tell you.
Just as a blanket question, do you guys still like SRGs, the 55s?
The small, the ones.
If we just came in with
and so-
application next week, would it be approved?
The only, well, hold on.
I don't know.
I don't know about
Well,
that.
I don't know why it
But the one thing that I had said a few times was, what do you do with the widow, right? The woman that's on her own, all she really does need is one bed, you know, maybe a place for the grandkid to come visit. But just say an 1,100 square foot, whatever. And we've been we've asked for this. And nobody wants those, nobody wants those, nobody wants those. And I'm like, well, where?
Of course, that's my idea, that's kind of what we're heading down here, is,
You know,
why would you not want them? Why would my son, he could either pay rent for the next 15 years in some apartment building, or he could try to buy a house. Now, he's not the kind of guy that's gonna wanna say, let's gut these bedrooms and fix all this stuff up. He's gonna wanna buy a house, you know what I mean? Maybe he's got his buddy that's doing it with him, or his girlfriend, or whatever, you know? No kids
there's a
involved.
lot to drink here.
But, you know, that's the concept, is that we're trying to get your feel on.
The,
Are we
let's
heading down a
let's
road?
just call it the bulk density that you guys are, you know, like I said, Pete, you were just firing bullets at us, like, honest to God. Again, you know it, like, it's like a car salesman.
That's
You're
what
just
Peter does.
shooting off facts, and we're just like, holy, slow down. And it's, you know, I'm just telling you, the density is something, that density is just something I don't think we have the taste for, right? We don't have the appetite. We've been burned by it.
But you're saying burned by it because of the kids side of it?
Rich, it is the most important.
Okay, so if we had the SRD age restriction, you have a better appetite for that?
That's me personally.
I'm just asking. I'm throwing it out to
personally-
anybody.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But I'm talking smaller. I'm talking small.
What if we did a percentage?
Of
Part of
Age
it's age
restricted.
restriction versus non-age restriction.
That's what we talked to these guys about a few months ago, was kind of merging, I use DRZ, but that was that kind of concept.
So it's a
DRZ
mixed
DRZ
use,
is really the same house
whatever
without
you
age
wanna
restriction, you know?
Different process, though. The DRZ is a zone change. What you're talking about,
I'm not-
SRDs are special exceptions, which are
DRZ,
different.
let's call this the new,
And I think you wanna.
the new
have
friendly
some-
American zone. I don't care what you wanna call it, you know what I mean? You know? But we like the regs that you guys wrote for SRD, because the house sizes work, right? And
But those house sizes
density
are,
works.
they're big.
No, they're not. Not at all. I have to do at least 30% under 1,800, right? Boom, I'm done. I could do 100% under 1,400.
But the
And I don't
density,
need permission to do
well,
that.
did you get any density numbers of what they're trying to, just say unit numbers, Michelle?
25.
These are
25.
We said
25.
25,
That's,
maximum 25.
that ain't happening. I'm from my end, that's not a number that's gonna work.
Because,
Because of the kids, that's why.
So you're bad,
That's the
every house
only
has
reason why.
kids.
Take it right off the table. Me, I'm happy with, and it's, again, taxpayers all your lives in this community. Givers, not takers, right? You look at it and go, where we're at right now, I'm saying you can build 6.
Do we know the average number of kids per household in town?
Can't ask them.
They have it in their report, what they have right today.
Well,
Yeah, I think it was, wasn't it?
Well,
Well, that should be a solid number, you know, I mean, that number's, well, if I know there's, you
I
know,
wanna say
20,
1.1.
that there's 15,000
It's around
houses
one
in South
for a
Windsor, and how many
single-family
kids there are, I can do the math.
Single-family houses yield more than multifamily houses. I mean, there is data on that we can certainly research for you.
Are there
Know that.
any other commissioners that want to weigh in? Commissioner Dexter, Commissioner Lowe, go ahead.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Or I may have missed it, but in the restricted age area, there's management and governance to restrict the age. In non-restricted, and if we want young people to benefit from this, what's the governance on that?
It'd be a homeowners association also.
So it would be like, they would choose
Condominium.
who?
And they'd own the roads
No,
and
but
the
it'd be a free
infrastructure.
market processes for
Absolutely.
buying it.
Age
though.
restricted is by
You wouldn't,
deed.
yeah.
So you can't sell it for 40 years or whatever it is without, unless you
Yeah.
sell to another person over 55, you know?
Right, so the price will attract younger individuals,
That's our intent.
and then the HOA will make the decision of who.
No.
It doesn't have to be HOA, except for the
No.
fact that HOA kind of, when you do cluster housing, HOA works because you don't have a lot of grass between each house. So one guy mows 10 feet his lawn, this guy mows 10 feet his lawn, you know what I mean? So like Lakewood is all HOA. They have a lawn service come in, it does all the grass, it's private road, they plow the roads. Town doesn't do anything there, but the people are more than, now, it does have to be expensive HOA because if you don't have a bunch of, you know, a marina or a clubhouse or whatever you got, you're just cutting the grass, basically.
Cutting the
you
grass
know?
and plowing the drive.
Like when we started Lakewood, the HOA was $35 a month. And that was, I don't know what it is now, but it's probably not.
It's a lot more than that.
Yeah, and I just have one comment, is that kids are gonna come into this town whether this happens or not. I know already families in Hartford that are waiting to come into South Windsor, and they have young kids, so it's, and that's something I also take under consideration, that the children population is gonna grow whether there's this type of projects or not.
Well, I think we need kids. We can't say there cannot be any more kids in town. The town dead in 20 years, you know?
I mean,
Oh, believe me,
we have,
don't worry about that.
we have growth
Oh, I
just
do
on
worry about
turnover.
that. I
We
mean,
don't really
it's-
need any new housing.
We have a lot of elementary school chairs, a lot. We just put a boatload of money into elementary schools here, you know? And
You
like I
think
said,
there's
there's
a lot
There's
of
not that much
chairs?
room. When's the last time you were in elementary school?
There's no chairs in these schools.
They're packed.
Whatever. I
I
call
mean,
seats,
it-
call
it-
seats
it's-
of the chairs.
Got trailers already.
Uh-huh.
I mean, yeah. I mean, Philip R. Smith
No,
already
no, no.
has
But
portables put up.
if you look at that
It's-
report, that's gonna start going down, not
About 6
up.
years, about 6 years.
Well,
Yeah, exactly, 6 years.
Michelle,
Because they're aging out.
Yes.
this yin and yang is not going away. Kids, housing. I know that you don't believe in this, but it's the best we have. Is it possible to maybe have Dr. Carter or someone from the Board of Ed come in and present this to us and talk this through a little? Just get us as smart as we can, so,
I can certainly request it, you know, they meet the same nights as you do, so sometimes it's hard to get the superintendent, but I can certainly ask her if there's.
Somebody could come in
Well,
and kind of
there's-
explain it to
there's
everybody. I think it
also
would put us all on the same
Craig
page.
who has chaired the Board of Ed for the last 7 or 8 years,
I wanna hear
who
it
is
from the horse's
extremely
mouth.
knowledgeable.
I'll leave it
I
up to
can get a call
Michelle.
to Dr. Carter.
Yeah.
Dr. Carter has come to
Yeah,
us
she has.
and
It's been
she
over a year,
has,
though.
she's
It's-
the
it's
best
been
one
a
to
while.
explain it.
It's been a while.
Cause she'll give you, what it says and then what it doesn't say.
Not a Tuesday night might work if she has Tuesday night Board of Ed.
We might have to do a special meeting if we get it.
Yeah,
But we
and
can
that-
talk to her about that.
That would be worth it.
I would rather do a special
We
meeting.
only meet once a month, Michelle, so maybe there's the off, yeah, Board of Ed meets once a month.
Oh, really?
Great. Yeah, yeah,
know,
so there's one
I
Tuesday.
want housing.
with you.
I want affordable housing, but I don't want, to be sitting here and approving pods to, hang on to the schools so that we have some place to put kids.
So looking at the study, I just would point out, page 20 is some real truth numbers, because that's telling you what's currently coming out of certain types of developments. So, and just what doesn't help you is how many units are in those developments, but just for point of reference, Clark Estates is a DRZ, Clark Estates 2 is a DRZ, right? My memory serves me right, Clark Estates has about 16 units, Clark Estates 2, probably around 27 units. You've got, 7 and 10 kids coming out of those. So those are current numbers. So again, I like to look at this because Tempo, it's telling you out of 200 units, you've got 35 kids enrolled in the school. So that's a 0.4. These are some of the numbers that you're going to see over and over again when people are trying to convince you of housing.
And when I asked him at
20.
Tempo, remember the first time? 7 students, Kevin, never more than 7
So
students.
what I tell developers, go to our school system and get real numbers to come to you guys because we have data. We know what our Metro Realty projects on 175 Oakland are producing. You can kind of take that and
20, she said
think
page
240 Deming's probably going to produce something similar, right? It's the same kind of product. I will the first to admit that the South Windsor Woods an outlier. I mean, it always has been, but you aren't building condos of 155 units anymore. So that may not happen again. But I think this is at least a chart for you to look at.
What's that?
The page numbers are little tiny.
Yeah,
numbers.
I found it.
Sorry, Michelle.
No, but it does give you some real numbers about types of projects and what they're producing school children today. Because we have different product types here, right? You got single-family housing, you got DRZs, you got condos, you've got apartments.
Are we missing something, Michelle? Like, you have any ideas how to make these houses, any house, so that younger people can buy them more?
I think, my experience has been our DRZ regulation that we've had in the past, having the affordability component has probably yielded the greatest number of younger families coming in, right, and buying houses, first-time buyers, because they're buying affordable units. I mean, that's some of my experience. So I did talk to Scott in particular. I was not in favor of a fee in lieu of when you're doing a density project. We spent a lot of time when we were doing our inclusionary zoning, and we kind of knew that we were most likely going to see more multifamily housing in the future than we were going to single-family house lots. And that's why we couldn't figure out other than a fee for single-family house lot, but we're under pressure in this 8002 law that we haven't really talked about law is going to put more pressure on us to create affordable units. So my feeling is getting the affordable units out of these projects is more important than a $10,000 contribution into a housing trust fund. That's my personal opinion.
No, I agree with you 100%.
So
We're never gonna
and
get
especially if you're giving density, that's kind of the trade-off, right? That's kind of how we've set it up. We've done other things, and just to give you an example, in the Buckland Gateway overlay zone, we did allow the affordable units to be 200 square feet smaller, right? So there was some give in the regulation to these affordable units. So that was some creativity in maybe making them cheaper. So that's just been, with the regulations we've had, the DRZ seems to have been the most effective of trying to get some lower cost, single-family housing, as you're calling it, but it's not a subdivision, right? We all know it's just a cluster.
There has to be a correlation between the number of bedrooms in units and the number of kids that are going to school. What I hear everybody talking about is concern for the 25-year-old, the 28-year-old who would like a house, but we're not talking about a family. I mean, 1 bedroom, or at most 2 bedrooms, would accommodate the people that we're talking about. They could be smaller correspondingly and less expensive. And I think it would accomplish what most of us would like to see.
I can't, totally honestly, if I build all 2 bedrooms, I can't tell somebody you can only have 1 kid. So that's, you can't do that, you know what I mean?
There's a
But
demographic that.
most people with 4 kids are probably gonna move into a bigger house, I would hope.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
you would
You're not
hope.
gonna cram 3 or 4 kids in a
But
bedroom.
why wouldn't you build mostly 1 bedroom? That sounds to me like that's
Because
the
even
population you're thinking
people
of.
in the SRDs that are 2 people living there want 2 bedrooms, if not 3, because here, it turns out when you get older, a lot of times you don't sleep in the same room with your wife, because she snores too much.
Yeah,
right?
okay.
Not him, but he. She
Very high percentage.
right? And then they need another bedroom, this is all Poto Bridge.
You only get that at
Give me
these
another
meetings,
bedroom for
folks.
the grandkids to stay in when they're over, or my knitting room, or whatever.
You
it
work
is.
from
That's
home,
not
you work
your
from home.
target
That's 55 and over
population.
too, I mean, that's SRD, you know?
That's not
But
your
2
target
bedrooms-
population.
2 bedrooms for what we're talking about? Perfect.
What's your target price point for these units?
I knew you were gonna ask me that, and.
Oh, no one has
I
yet.
hate to throw out numbers right now, because I don't know what the crystal ball
Start
is saying.
throwing.
The crystal ball next year, who knows?
Well, if
Maybe
the
price of lumber
average
goes
is,
back down again, I
if
don't
the
know.
average sale's 430, and people can't afford 430, you have to be looking at a number less than that. So, in the example
You're
of,
not looking at less than that.
No.
No way.
No.
You're not gonna graduate college on Tuesday and buy a house on Wednesday. No, you're gonna have to go to work for a little bit, but I don't want you to have to work till you're 40.
And that $500,000 or $600,000 house is still a lot cheaper than a 1.2 or 1.4, 1.6 house.
But also don't forget that Kevin and I, back when we were 25, we could have bought a house together. And we could have each made 100 grand or 80 grand, and we would qualify. You don't necessarily gotta buy the house yourself, you could have a girlfriend or a boyfriend or
Interest
a
rates have
roommate
come
or.
down
My
again.
son bought a house
Well,
in
good.
South Windsor, his first house, bought on Busy Ellington Road, and there were 2 other of his buddies here from South Windsor who rented from him. One of whom became a future brother-in-law, but that's what he did, and he got enough income from that, worked.
They
You gotta
should learn
qualify
from the
to pay for a
past.
Mortgage, you know?
Said they should learn from the past.
That's why I said if I had a time machine, I'd
Make
fix the
to
world.
make a
you know?
future.
All right, do we have any other comments from commissioners?
Thank you.
I hope you've got the feedback that you were looking
Well,
for.
yeah. A little confused, but.
You had me confused. What, we didn't confuse you.
So you're gonna get Kate Carter, is what I heard, to.
We're gonna try,
have a
we're gonna
meeting
try and
with
get
her.
some input on the reality of our
Cause
school
we
situation.
do have to I mean, we can read this, but again,
Yeah.
in my time here, I've seen this report
It's never right.
and it has been,
But we're,
I mean-
like Michelle said, just look at some of the other similar projects, how many kids are coming out of those?
That's the important data right there.
You know?
We don't have an application right now.
No, we
Yeah,
don't.
we're not.
We're a little ways off from doing the application. And, no, these comments are great. We got a lot of information out of you, and it's very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, you
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
All right, item number 4, and I promise to make this quick, review of the proposed bylaws changes. In your packet, you should have gotten them. Staff was nice enough to read out things that have changed. So, Article 9 meetings, we added a line to indicate that the Director of Planning and the Chair shall establish the agenda for meetings. Our regular and special meetings begin at 7, Section 3, and then Section 5 talks about adding an item to a regular agenda to be approved by 2/3 of the majority of the commission just prior to the meeting. Then we have, under hearings, Article 15, just a grammatical thing, really. A very, very minor thing down in Section 9, public hearings shall adjourn by 10:30. That's, the time is not new, it's just a grammatical change. And then under committees, we deleted all reference to standing committees because we don't have any and never had any as long as I've been on the commission. So we didn't see the need to keep that. We can still have special committees, like the sign committee that I was on and some of the housing committees that some of you were on. So can I get a motion to approve the bylaws as amended?
question. In reading this, and I've only been to 4 or 5 meetings thus far, and we get a packet days before the meeting,
Right.
and the presenters, not tonight, but in the past, the presenters would be up there showing us information that's not in our packet. We're not left with what they show us. Is there anything in our bylaws that require the presenters to make all their content of their presentation available to us beforehand so we can review it?
So
'Cause
Jen,
I get confused by that, because I study what's given, and I'm
Yeah.
seeing something totally different up there. They leave with it, and it's never to be seen again.
right, so we did talk about this at our previous meeting. By and large, when presenters have materials to present, they are included in the packets. What we agree to, and it's not in the bylaws, I don't know that it needs to be in the bylaws, but if an applicant has something that they wanna give us at the meeting, if it's just an image, something that we can grasp really quickly, I'm okay with that. If they give us War and Peace, what I would wanna do is suggest we postpone the meeting until we've all had a chance to digest that.
Okay.
And just so you know, what was presented becomes an exhibit to your minutes, so you will see a copy of it again. It's kind of a hit or miss what we get before meetings. If we get a PowerPoint before a meeting, we would give it to you. Josh can attest to this. He's usually contacting the applicants to say, are you presenting something? Because we've got to go through our IT department, and it's got to get cleared before it can be presented to you folks here. So we were 2-3 days before the meeting to get things cleared. So sometimes I don't want to say they're an afterthought. We try to make copies available. I should have probably made copies of the RC one tonight. There's a lot of color. We try not to use our own resources for color copies. It didn't seem necessary with what's being presented. But that will be part of the minutes, and we certainly can get you a copy of that if you'd like it. We do have it electronically, so we can certainly send it to you digitally as well, because anything that's presented though like that as exhibit does get incorporated into your minutes.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second?
Any discussion? All agreed? Aye. Any opposed? Bylaws pass. I feel like I accomplished something tonight. Bonds.
None. None.
Any old business?
Nope.
Then the only thing left to do is adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All agree?